Yeah, sounds good. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tripodcast. I think we're on episode like 12 at this point.
11, I think.
Something
No,
like that.
I think that no, I'm pretty sure we're 12. I'll just say that. I'm pretty sure we're on 12. And so today, guys, what we're gonna do is we're gonna be doing 3x3s. First of all, of course, Jason here. We got Peter over there. I'm Rocky, as always. And today we're gonna be doing with what's called 3x3s, where basically we have these kind of squares, and what we're doing is we're looking at like top moments from movies, and we're going to kind of discuss those and what ours are. On top of that, there is the end of the writers' strike, apparently, that we can talk about some news from, as well as like I can't remember if we watched anything fresh recently, other than probably like a couple schlocky movies. Yeah, other than that, there's also like there's an OceanGate movie apparently that's going to happen about the submersible that
Oh my
happened.
god, I thought that was a fake story.
Oh no, yeah. So the guy that produced The Blackening apparently is producing a film based on the OceanGate thing where they went down to see the Titanic and their submersible imploded. However, what do we want to start with? Do we want to do like a quick game like we usually do, or do we want to start with the 3x3s? What do we want to do?
Well, if we just finish, we were just talking about some games and stuff before we started recording. I'll just put out like Phantom Liberty is so fucking good.
Okay.
I'm keen for you guys to get through it and see what you think. But you guys you didn't finish the base game yet either.
Yeah, no, I'm still going through the game. I know Jason made it significantly farther than I did. But so yeah, it'll definitely be some time before I get there. Because also now I'm trying to play Liza P as well, so like kind of balancing games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know how far I was close to the end of the first Cyberpunk. I know I had gotten past where you take on the role of Johnny Silverhand, and he's basically shooting his fucking gun off, and you're getting the nuclear bomb.
Oh yeah. That's pretty.
Whatever.
That's at the right before the title card, isn't it?
No, this is way further into the game.
Oh, okay.
There's a couple things. The first one that you're talking about is when you see him at the rock band.
Yeah, and then he goes to the top of the
later-
thing, and then you use the gun to shoot or whatever, and you plant the nuke.
Yeah,
There's another one.
I think there's 3 acts, and each act ends
Has
with
a version of that.
Okay, so I was on the third act then.
Got it.
I was pretty close. Damn. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean the third act is either like an hour or like 20 hours. Like it really depends what path you take and like what choices you make. So you could be almost finished or like nowhere near.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that, like especially too with things like the brain dance or whatever the fuck it's called. Like there's so many things that you can completely get sidetracked on, and Jason didn't know, but I like when I went deep into the lore, I love the fact that it came from like a tabletop game, and then they like of course turned it into like a legit thing. And I can't believe that like the tabletop game had like the whole cyber psycho aspects and everything as well. Also, real quick, Peter, it looks like your camera's lagging out there. Maybe it's my connection.
Oh, it looks.
Is it fine on your end? Because I can
on
just
this.
let me disconnect and reconnect right quick. Okay, it's fixed now. It's fixed now. We're good.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, the fact that Cyberpunk can have such like had such deep lore already, and the whole like cyber psycho aspect and all of that, the lore just got me so deep into this entire fucking thing. And the fact that there's just like constantly new iterations and more expansions on this world, but also they are like there's so many different stories that can be explored within that world that it's just like the possibilities seem pretty much fucking endless. So yeah, that I'm curious to see like if this becomes like a GTA type thing for them, where in the future, like if they're gonna like try to kind of maybe like make more in this type of vein and just continue to kind of upgrade the type of gameplay or what it is, or if maybe they'll try to make more like of a longer forever game. I hope they don't do that, because I don't like the whole season type situation. But yeah, no, it is definitely one of the most lore rich ones, and we started the anime actually over on Netflix. In the first episode, I was already sold. That anime is like really good, so I have to go back and finish that as well. But yeah, and the characters, they're just so enthralling, you know, like Adam Smasher and fucking Johnny Silver. Now I still stand by Keanu is not a good voice actor. I'm sorry, I stand by that. But otherwise, like, yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it. So other game wise, I don't remember, has there been any other game news that's happened recently?
Yeah, I haven't seen. I've just been playing. I think it's a good time to recommend it to everyone, because I think with 2.0 and Phantom Liberty, it genuinely is. I think I want to finish it, but at the moment, I think it might be my favorite game.
Okay.
I think the Phantom Liberty stuff they've added is so bloody good, and like the way it interacts with the main story kind of makes me not separate the two into separate things. So as the one like Cyberpunk, I think it's definitely story-wise, it's past like The Last of Us now with what I've seen in Phantom Liberty so far. As my favorite like story.
They had an Idris Elba trailer that was really interesting that I absolutely adored. I don't know how that
the train.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah, that was pretty crazy.
I'll say, because I found this really interesting yesterday on stream. Someone was asking if I'd seen the cinematics, so I went and watched them.
Yeah.
Before doing the 4th mission, so there's like 16, so I was pretty early in. But I only thought there was a couple. But right before the 4th mission, I watched that, and in the I don't know why they've done this cinematic, but they've released it, so it's fine to say. The 4th mission is when they reveal what happened on the train. Okay. Like, your character doesn't know for the first 3, so I was like, wait. This cinematic
just spoiled. Okay, yeah, it just spoiled. Okay, yeah, that's interesting.
And I played like another 30 minutes of the game, and then Idris's character started talking about it, and I was like, oh my god, this was supposed to be
like a bigger thing. Yeah, well, okay. Yeah, because I didn't know if Idris was actually be like playable, or just like an NPC, or what it was going to be there. But that definitely was interesting. We'll move swiftly off that then, since Jason, doesn't want to hear anymore. Dragon's Dogma. I just found out about this game. But basically I haven't started playing it yet, but I've been obsessed with just watching like some of the clips from like Dragon's Dogma, and apparently they're coming out with the second one. Asmongold had this video of like the great sword in gaming history, and it was just this dude just fucking slamming trolls and shit with like this giant sword. It looked so fucking fun. So that's now on my list of games to try out, as well as to look out for when they drop. So hopefully that turns out to be good. Have you played the first one? You said you liked it?
No, my friend plays more fantasy RPGs like Oblivion and Skyrim, and Dragon's Dogma is like his favorite game ever, and he always like chats about it, but they never did like a second one. The only reason I was thinking that I remember it now is because they have announced one, but they kept announcing like, I think it's like Konami, and they kept teasing games like Deepest Dungeon or something was a new RPG they did, and people were like, DD, it's Dragon's Dogma. Yeah. And then like years of speculation, and then it's just not. So I've always thought the fact that there's so many people that want a sequel, that's usually how you can tell like a game must be really good.
Because it came out in 2016, so that's 7 years ago, and people are still fucking super hyped for this upcoming game. So I'm definitely excited to try it out for sure.
I think it was just very like classic RPG, but the one thing I know that was different was it was kind of like that PlayStation game where you could climb bosses and stuff, and you would like
is it where you play
Shadow of the Colossus?
There you go, Shadow of the Colossus. That's such a good game.
It was like that mixed with Oblivion, I think. So very good.
Shadow of the Colossus is such like a beautiful game when it comes to like the simplicity and the minimalist of it, but how like intense it is too to take on those giant beasts. Oh, I love that game. Okay, well, I mean, that's...
I have seen negatively as well, not to like suck every game off. I hate that Assassin's Creed Mirage has exclusive missions if you pre-order. I don't understand why games do this, and they don't make it like, okay, if you pre-order, you get these missions, otherwise they're $10. The fact that like so many Ubisoft games and EA and a few other things have like content exclusive to pre-ordering that if you just don't pre-order the game, if you like wait until it comes out, see if it's good and then buy it, you'll just never get like 2 hours of content.
Yep.
Like, especially when the new one is only supposed to be like 15 to 20 hours. It's like 10% of the game's in the fucking pre-order, but like, I don't really want to pre-order a fucking game that could be dog
Yeah,
shit.
that's the problem.
Very annoying.
When games are coming out like super scuffed, like it's hard to want to put that money down. And then on top of that, what I've noticed is that they're just and Jason has talked about this too. They're just terrible with their actual like what they give you for the pre-order. Like for example, like there was like a RoboCop, the game is coming out, and like the pre-order had this like really shitty basic gray skin that it was like, why would anybody be enticed to purchase this fucking thing? And like I remember back in the day, obviously, like, you know, sometimes pre-orders come with a season pass, so like with Call of Duty you'd get like all the other stuff, or you could go like for the higher tiers and get like they had the Pip-Boy for like Fallout, or they had like the Perca-Colas from like Call of Duty if you got like the deluxe packages. And I understand that distributing things digitally is extremely cheap, but that doesn't mean that you can't merchandise on the side, and that's what that is. That's merchandising. It's smart business to go out and try to tie together, like there's a reason that like rappers will tie together like shirt sales with their album, you know what I mean? You pad numbers this way by like people wanting the merchandise so they get the other thing as well. So yeah, I feel it's funny because the gaming companies are so obsessed with money, but they're so fucking bad at making it in legitimate ways. Like they don't go out and there's barely any merchandising for most games these days, I feel like, and I don't know what the fuck happened with that.
There's Mortal Kombat 1, and Jean-Claude Van Damme is a character that you can get if you pre-order. And I thought originally, I was like, okay, well, I kind of want this game. I'll pay the $70, and it's an exclusive character. No, you have to buy the Ultimate Edition for $120 to get Jean-Claude Van Damme. That's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, fuck all of that. Like,
and so that means anybody who doesn't pre-order the game just never gets that character. It used to be back in the day you could buy like the DLC later on if you didn't get it right away. Yeah. But now they're just, no, you have to pre-order a game that's possibly broken upon launch, and it's tough shit.
I don't mind like the concept of day one. That's become like a very big thing since the Xbox One era. But like, if it's going to be day one, it should be cosmetic. Like, you should not be locking content to pre-orders. Like, I don't give a fuck if it's like, you know, some in-game skin or like a car or a weapon that only... Like, if it's not like a big gameplay thing, but if you're locking like actual content, it just feels so weird to me.
Here's the other thing too: is there, first of all, less people pre-order than ever for good reason. But beyond that, there is no reason for them to need pre-order. What they need is alpha and beta testing, because pre-ordering is just meant to get an idea of how many copies of a game that you need to physically create, so that way you know that you have enough on the shelves to sell out, but not too much, so that way, you know, you don't end up with a bunch of extra shit. So like, that's the whole idea of pre-order, is to get a gauge of that. But now that everything is pretty much digital, there's practically no utility in it, and so now they're just fucking desperate because this was one of their revenue streams, and now that it's shutting like down because people are like, well, fuck you, I'm not gonna do it, they're kind of like in this death throw of pre-orders, like, please, we will give you like a fucking half the game is locked unless you pre-order. It's like, what are we doing here?
I like Steam early access. Steam's early access is pretty dope, because you'll sometimes get the game like a year before the full release.
For sure.
And you're basically beta testing, but you're paying half the cost of what it's
and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and to me that makes perfect sense. But no, if you're gonna sit there and say you're gonna give us $70 up front for a game that most likely has issues on day one, and with PlayStation, getting a refund is damn near impossible.
Yeah, well, PlayStation's already just trash as is.
Most games just like launch. Most big games nowadays launch like late beta, it feels like. Even if there's like a lot of enjoyment that you can have out of it, it really just feels like a lot of games you need to like play it a little bit, wait like a couple patches, and then finish it. Like, they're never really on release in my experience. Like, Starfield's such a good example. Like, it feels like there's such a good game and yet so much missing now until like next year when the DLC comes out or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing through Fallout 4. I'm probably like 40 hours in, and I remember like when it came out initially, and I played it. I was like, it's a pretty cool game. It's different mechanics, like building up your different like territories and that type of stuff. But I don't remember the game being as good as it is right now. And then the addition of the mods that you can also get through PlayStation through playing Fallout 4 was definitely not something that was there on day one. So yeah, there's a lot of like Bethesda games especially that never are as good as they turned out to be at 2 years down the road.
100%. Yeah, and obviously
and there's so many people.
Go ahead.
There's such like a big movement of like, oh, you can't really complain about this game. It's designed to be supported for 10 years. Like, I've seen that argument for Starfield of like, Bethesda's going to give updates for the next 10 years. But people are just saying everything that's missing now will be added later. And that's just giving them excuses. Like, you can still say the game at launch should have had this stuff. Even if they add it next year, it's still problematic that it's not like an industry standard to have a good launch anymore.
And here's the thing too, is I can understand if it's something like, again, like a forever game, like if you're doing like a seasonal game where it's maybe like an MMORPG style. It's like, okay, yeah, season 1 you're probably gonna have a little bit more of a bare bones experience, and then you kind of build up. But when you're offering like a game, just a full game that is supposed to be like fully playable and ready to go with a story, yeah, there's no reason why it should come like broken, and that seems to be the most common thing these days. When especially like what I was reading too before is that they just refuse to hire testers as much anymore, and when they do, they basically push these testers to approve it, even if it's not really up to code, because they need to hit these certain release dates, and that's fucking very sad to hear.
Well, I was gonna say it reminds me of when we were talking about like before all these movies started failing, like Fast and modern blockbusters, like gaming blockbusters. I think because, I mean, I don't want to put the blame on them because they're a good studio now, but like I think because of No Man's Sky and stuff, studios have just realized like the thing you need is actually like the game content, like the story for games like Starfield. If that's finished, that's fine. So Bethesda does that. They offloaded the rest of Starfield, I would assume most of the gameplay and all of that shit, to 15 or 16 other companies, and those ones drop the ball, and you get a game that's like not all together, but they're like, well, that's fine, we'll patch it over the next 2 to 3 years as we add the expansion, and then by the time the expansion comes out, it'll be the game that we would have wanted. But like, I just don't understand.
It's also a bad structure. I think that most of I think that most of the people in the business side of gaming, again, are just trash. Because when it comes to structure, like, you're exactly right. They'll have like a main developer, so to speak, and then what they do is they have like the main base engine maybe, or some code, whatever, that they then kind of pass off to have things added on. Now, when you have some sort of multiplayer situation where you have a Valorant where it's clearly meant to be some sort of just like challenging game, like simulator type thing, obviously that's a little easier, because then you can just like, oh yeah, you go make a map for it, because you don't need to interconnect with this other team when you're just making a fucking map for the game. But when we're talking about a fully integrated game, it should be one top-down structure, and that's what, like, I think Sega did a long time ago, is they separated into like 10 individual companies that all had top-down structure and all only worked like within themselves for their games, and they made some of the best games that Sega ever released. But now you see all this mess, and the same thing happened with CD Projekt Red, right? They had they hired these shady fucking companies, and then when all of a sudden it drops and it's all fucked, they like then throw the ball over to them and say, oh yeah, well obviously, but it's like, you're the main guys who are supposed to be overseeing this to begin with.
Yeah, CD Projekt Red is good at like making up for their
they have made up for it,
when
sure,
you have a
company
like Activision literally selling Modern Warfare 3, which was supposed to be free.
Oh, that's
like, dude, that's a big fuck you to gamers. And to support that would be absolutely stupid.
That's like actually exactly the example I was going to use. Like, I've seen, I don't know whether you guys saw, but like when The Witcher 3 remaster was being done, they literally were like, the studio working on it, they're not doing a good job. We're taking over. Unfortunately, we have to delay the next Witcher game. But like, I think they've finally learned to do shit themselves, and like structure-wise as well. I've seen them moving all of the team for Cyberpunk 2 to Boston to be a one studio in one location as opposed to like across Europe. So it's like you focus down what you're doing, and you have like, you know, I assume, you know, they've had the anime so interconnected with the actual game and all the rest of the universe. You have like everything in one spot as opposed to like fucking like Call of Duty, like the fucking one Infinity War does the campaign, Treyarch does the fucking multiplayer, another team does the battle royale. It's like it's so disjointed.
It is, and on top of that, here's the thing that pissed me off is, did you play Modern Warfare 2? Back in the day?
Not. The new one?
Back in the day. So if you remember back in, I mean, no Russian is early on. And so in this one, what they did was, and I didn't play the new one, but apparently what they did is they remade it so that basically at the end of the main campaign, you get a text on the plane that says no Russian, when you're already on the plane, which usually, I mean, it was going through the airport before, not on a plane. But so regardless, they get this message and it cuts, and it was supposed to be like free DLC that was going to be added on, but because everybody like loves the no Russian thing because it was so edgy and it was like, oh, whatever, everybody remembered it, like they then decided, no, fuck it, we're just gonna move this over to Modern Warfare 3, and basically they're changing the entire timelines of everything and how every fucking thing works, just so that way they can make a couple extra bucks, because they built up hype on something that like was gonna have hype regardless. It's Activision definitely is so annoying.
Are they not also selling the Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer is just Modern Warfare 2 maps?
Yeah.
Well?
Like
they haven't made any new maps.
There's no new zombie stuff. There's and nothing of this is new.
No.
And there's a $70 price tag on it, which is fucking insane.
Yeah, the Warzone was made worse. Like we haven't touched fucking that battle royale. We could just do Naraka now for the most part. Or go ahead. Sorry.
Fucking it's so interesting inflation now, because games used to be 60 for you guys, right?
Yeah.
So it's like 80 now.
It's like
gone
70
from
80 now.
It's gone from 80 to 120 here, which I get inflation,
shit.
But like the cost of everything else is kind of like, comparatively, games have become not just inflated by like 20 USD, but like they're just more like other costs have come down and games are just fucking $120. Like fucking that the stuff Jason was talking about where games like 140, 150 for like the fucking gold edition, those are like 180, and it's fucking ridiculous. It's
because also you have so much bloat with these teams as well, because realistically what you'll end up having is you'll have like, you know, people be assigned things and they'll take their sweet time on it, and then, you know, because at the end of the day, the longer you work, the more money that you're going to get, unless you're salaried, in which case then you're getting fucked for the most part. But so like there's just so much like incentivizing to keep bringing on new people because they think it ups productivity. But at the end of the day, there is a tipping point. Sooner or later, with the more people you add, you're just going to get the people sitting around doing fucking nothing. And also, every game has to be fucking has 100 hours of content, 30 hours of content, has to be open world, or has to have at least a bunch of branching storylines. Like, they're expected to be so intense these days. And like, that's why, I mean, I love the more simplistic, like cinematic platformers that have come out, even like Stray, you know, or Planet of Lana was one recently. We played Gris, which came out a while ago. Yeah, those are like really great games, and they're not long or anything like that. And they didn't even take that many people to make. Those games are great. Yeah, go ahead.
The horrible thing, I was gonna say, things like when something's good, like No Man's Sky, developers are like, oh, we can just update later. Or like Final Fantasy VII, how they're splitting it into 4 games, the remake.
They are.
Companies are like, oh, we can make Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 with just the same content. But like, every time someone does something good, other companies see and go, we can just milk this for money. And like, I worry about this new like I think Assassin's Creed Mirage is good. I'm really glad they're doing like a fucking 15-hour game.
Okay.
That to me, as an old man now, I'm like, good. I could never finish fucking 150-hour Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but give us a 15-hour fucking very small game. I like that
for sure.
And
but now I'm like,
it's cheaper too.
How many other
companies?
companies?
$60 and compared to 70.
Yeah.
But how many other companies are going to see this and be like, oh, we can make like dog shit now. We can make Elder Scrolls 6 like 20 hours and people will pay for it.
See, yeah, like that's the thing too, though, is I think it also just like kind of depends on what type of game that you're going for, because like at the end of the day, I think that there are so many games that really just don't need to be open world that end up being open world, or like there's a lot of games that feel like there's just a lot of expansive, vast nothingness. One of the games that I can like easily point to that apparently did very well in Japan was Biomutant. This is a game that me and Jason played. I actually really liked the game. It had a lot of charm to it, but the problem was it was like fucking this giant map with like nothing around, totally empty world, and very minimal combat system for the most part. And so like there was only a team of like 10 or 12 people working on that massive game, though. If they just made it a more linear story where it actually just kind of like didn't have this expansive world and made it more tight, it probably would have been a significantly better game. It didn't need to be this massive fucking open world.
We had like Far Cry literally used the same exact engine and assets from 5 to make New Dawn and then Far Cry 6.
Yeah.
And it's just
Far
Cry 6 I was
shit.
like, the first time I started playing the game, I was like, am I playing the wrong fucking game?
Dude, we were so excited for it when
like,
we first.
Why the fuck is this the exact same areas as Far Cry 5? I literally thought like maybe I was fucking losing my mind.
Yeah.
But they sold it for $70. It's the same fucking game.
Yeah.
And but it's the AAA developers that are by far the fucking laziest.
Yeah.
They will just
because they have an IP and they can milk it.
Yeah, because they put all their money behind marketing rather than the actual game.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, we are in the IP exploitation era. I will stand on this. They just want to take anything that has any popularity and run it into the ground as hard as they possibly can. And I mean, I get it. It's a cash cow, but at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to stop it is people just don't buy the game, and that's probably not going to happen, sadly.
Yeah, because if streamers have to be the first ones to beat it. Streamers have to be the first ones to play it. It's more views and more subscribers if you're getting the game day one at midnight playing it on Twitch or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So they're more than ever incentivized to buy the shittiest fucking games and give these AAA developers their money, even when they should not be. They should be like boycotting and say, I'm not going to give the AAA developer my money because it's the same damn game and I don't want my audience sitting there buying this piece of crap as well.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The era of like fucking long and expansive games is coming as well, with like how fucking easy it is to make open worlds in Unreal Engine now.
Oh god,
every studio jumping on it. It's like, like a studio like fucking 343 had to spend 6 years to make Halo open world. But now you can make shit like Biomutant with a tiny team.
Yep.
Not like 350 people, just like 12 people in like a couple years.
Oh, yeah.
If you have like a 350... Like Call of Duty next game could just be on Unreal Engine. A studio with 600 people in it, Treyarch, Infinity Ward, fucking would only take them a couple months to make an open world Call of Duty.
100%. I was... here's the thing, is I was playing around with Unreal Engine, and the cool thing is that you can utilize Unreal Engine and build have things like procedural world generation, other aspects.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you can go and you can just fucking ask AI to help you code whatever fucking system it is you want.
It's crazy.
Dude, I was just exploring with this. I started making just like a Java HTML script game where basically it was just like a platformer action game. And I kind of stopped halfway through, but I got like most of the way through it. And I had like a playable character and it was like 16-bit. It was made and it was all written from AI code and just tossing it into like Visual Code Microsoft program. Like it's so insane how it works these days.
So one of the most interesting things that we should like pin and come back to in future years is the way that they've set up Unreal Engine. They're very heavily focused on and launched this Unreal Engine Fortnite version, which is like 5 but made easier for kids to use. and they've put all these systems in place of like the same they did with Epic Game Store. They're like, we're gonna like undercut the competition by paying this much, but it's coming out in their, they've done their this year financial report, and they're like not doing well because Unreal Engine Fortnite is so successful that they're paying out so much money that they're not like making the margins they used to be making. And it's only the first year. So in a year or two, Epic Games could go under unless they like suddenly say, oh, we're not going to pay this much anymore. We're going to.
Yeah. Well, they do they own Unreal Engine? I can't remember.
Yes. Yes. But so for some reason, they've set it up to like, if you make something in Unreal Engine Fortnite and it gets X amount of players, they're making no money from it, but they'll pay you. So if people just make games in Unreal Engine Fortnite, they just lose money.
I should look into the Fortnite one. I've only looked into like the main one, which I know if you make over like I think $100,000 or $200,000, then you basically there's a revenue split or whatever, which is pretty valid. I think that's cool. But yeah obviously like they can't
locked in. But someone made, you guys know Only Up.
Oh yeah.
Some kid made Only Up in Fortnite, and he got 6,000 players playing it. No, 16,000 players playing it concurrently. Jesus. And apparently he was making 6 figures a month.
That's insane.
And he's made 4 of them now, so he's probably making fucking bank.
Yo, shout
out
that guy.
They don't make anything off of it because you have to like buy skins and stuff. Like it's completely disconnected from them monetization.
Honestly,
so they're just paying kids now.
Yeah, honestly, I think they'll probably at some point obviously have to kind of cut that or at least start charging for things to a certain degree. The main thing that they can use for it though is talent, obviously. Like if you get somebody who does create something really good, you can easily bring them in, and the thing too is you can bring in somebody who's inexperienced but has some level of talent because they've created something that's decent, and then you can pay them way less than average and then train them to be what you want them to be. It's like kind of like the perfect method for that. So I mean, hey, maybe that's what they'll go for.
Super interesting because obviously the last decade we've had Roblox, and that's just a horrible like.
Fuck Roblox, dude. Yeah.
But they've spent so much time and money to make like literally Unreal Engine 5, but easy enough that people that play Fortnite, like 8-year-olds, can use it to make games. So I'm really interested to see how the like next decade of development's going to go. I mean,
absolutely.
The fact that people are making like, oh, I'm just going to sit down and make Only Up in Fortnite and then getting 16,000 concurrent players. That's like more than fucking Starfield.
Well, no, dude, yeah, that's why like I was when I talked to you guys about the Recluse. One of the things that I was inspired by was there's which one? Silent Hill 4, I think it's called, the room or the apartment, and it's basically this guy in his apartment, and he goes through these different like portals, and he starts losing his mind and whatnot. And so like I have been playing with Unreal because I definitely want to try to like create some sort of atmosphere to at least kind of like build the apartment thing I'm thinking of. And so like things like that, the fact that I could do that, and the fact that I was even able to like begin, I mean, I used to script a little bit when it came to like Java and shit like that, but like going in and being able to see how easy it is to tell an AI to do something, or like literally when I was using like it was HTML, CSS, and Java. And so what I would do is like if something wasn't working, I'd copy all 3 and I'd be like, hey, here's this one, here's this one, here's this one, can you fix it? And then it would just re-put out each version of all 3 of them like properly integrated, and it would work. I was like, oh my god, dude, that made me more excited than anything in a long time. With that use of AI is like so fucking cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, going back to like the open world and how easy it is for like these games to become open world.
Yeah,
like Halo is the perfect example of an open world game with 90% of it empty.
Okay,
it is one of the
most recent one.
The most recent one. It's one of the worst experiences I've ever had. Thinking that this game is going to be like a full-fledged, fully interactive, Bethesda type of open world where everything, you can talk to everybody, you can interact with everything. But no, most of the time you are literally walking on grass and waiting for something to happen. And it's terrible. It's one of the worst games I've ever played.
It's what Call of Duty open world would be. It's just, we've just made these sections and then we've added an open world around it. It's so annoying because when I thought of that example, I was actually thinking like, it is one of the few games that I've played where even though they literally added none of the fucking RPG elements, the fucking system of it, like Halo in open world, is more enjoyable than the fucking linear shit they were doing before.
Yeah.
But it's such a low like bar of to surpass. I mean, I think Battlefield does a good job with like their open sandboxes or whatever they call it, where it's like kind of small open world areas. I think that's the way to go for like.
Yeah, well, yeah. Then also, I mean, I remember the Gmod days. Everybody would go around, fuck around in the sandbox, and all those were fun. Or like did you ever play Gmod, Peter?
A little bit.
There was always a Trouble in Terrorist Town was my favorite one, where you go around as you have a detective and you have people like one is a traitor, got to figure out who it is. I loved open mic on that, but obviously back in those days, open mics, especially as a kid, was so. Dude, I was playing Call of Duty one time. This is actually a traumatic memory that just popped into my head. I was playing Call of Duty one time. I was like maybe 10 years old, and I was in a zombies match, and I said something, and then this guy like started describing how good pussy was, but he did it in like the most descriptive and gross way possible to a 10-year-old in a Call of Duty game. It was so fucking weird. And I remember we were like really far into the match too. It was like round 22. I was like, nah, fuck it. I'm gonna waste the last 3 hours. I'm not sitting around here with this fucking weirdo. But anyway, so I have to go pee real quick. But shall we go ahead and move into the movie stuff in a second, right when I get back?
Yeah. I'll just chat shit while you go to the bathroom then.
Yeah, go for it.
I do gotta caveat, like fucking Phantom Liberty is unfortunately so much more broken than, at least for me, the launch game was. Okay. Like I'm up to 5 crashes now, and for me the base game only crashed once while I was streaming.
Yeah,
Phantom Liberty keeps fucking crashing for me.
See, that was the one thing I was gonna say. Like when Cyberpunk first launched, I mean, I had I think I had 1080 at the time, like a 1080 Ti or something. It wasn't like the most advanced computer, but I really didn't have all these issues that everyone was saying they were having problems with. And it's kind of shocking when you say the game crashed 5 times on you. I'm like, oh shit. No, but I haven't heard much complaints from people about like it crashing.
Yeah, I think I'm just getting my comeuppance because I had a good experience the first time.
That's the same. Oh damn, that's gonna come back to haunt me now too as well.
It's so weird how it's like integrated with the video card, I guess, because like I started streaming the game. I've been unable to stream it to finish it. Okay. It really pissed me off because like when I started streaming it, OBS was going 60 FPS, 5,000 kilobits, like fucking mint. The game was running at like 55 frames. So I was like, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But the last like 2 days I've tried to stream it, it goes down to 20 FPS, and I'm like, there's been no patches for Cyberpunk. I haven't touched my OBS settings, but suddenly it's like not running right. And now it's like literally gotten down to the point where like if I have them both open and one of them crashes, so I'm like, well, I guess I can't stream the last couple missions, but I don't know what I did. Nothing changed. The game just like decided to break OBS eventually. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a couple of times where I had the experience on PC, like random games, just all of a sudden one day it was working perfectly fine, no issues whatsoever. Yeah. The next day you play it, some reason you're like, what the fuck? I didn't do nothing to the computer. I don't know what the hell happened. Sure. But yeah, because Peter was saying apparently Phantom Liberty crashed on him 5 times already.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but I was saying like the first time we played Cyberpunk, it didn't have any issue, and neither did he. So.
Yeah, I had some, but I was playing on like a pretty bad computer.
Because I've seen the same thing as you, Jason, where I haven't seen anyone complaining about it much. So it might just be OBS with Phantom Liberty is like fucking horrible. Because it's just really it was the first day I streamed, it was like 60 FPS on both, and now like neither can run concurrently. So I don't know what.
Yeah, I mean, well, Reddit's always good for solutions, that's for sure.
Not good for opinions, but good for solutions. That's a fact.
That's true. I've had like 2 missions, and I saw Tim said he had one mission as well that's like unable to be progressed due to bugs. So it's a little bit annoying.
Did mention that. Yeah, 100%. Especially because there's not much you can do. I guess you could try to submit a support ticket, but I mean, most of the time you're kind of just fucked.
Yeah, I mean, I had one, like my whole game the first time I played through it, like
Yeah.
100 hours, I had like one crash, couple of, like, I had a lot of funny bugs, but I
Yeah.
had one bug where one side mission could not be completed.
Okay.
And I sent a support ticket, and I think it took like 6 weeks for them to like patch it. And they did say, they replied like the next day, yeah, we know we're going to patch it. And I was
Okay.
annoyed it took 6 weeks. But at the same time, I enjoyed so much of the game, I just like was fine. But I've only played like 30 hours of Phantom Liberty and it's crashed quite a lot. I mean, it hasn't been crashing while I haven't been streaming. But I turned the settings down, so it should. I don't know why streaming it is just killing it. But yeah, like when you can't progress, that's very annoying. If the bug that I'm getting is just not fixed when I've like save scummed and I just cannot progress this one side mission, pretty annoying. But
yeah, dude, one of the times I was the most pissed off in video games was I was at the I was young and had no idea how to play video games. I booted up Fallout 3 and everybody said how amazing it was. And I remember what happened was I went into the fucking nuke town or whatever the fuck, and basically I accidentally shot somebody. So I went to go load my save, but instead of loading my save, I accidentally saved game over my other save. And I therefore could not go back, and I was not allowed in the town, and I had no idea on how to progress. So I just gave up, and I never went back. And so therefore, I just don't like Fallout.
Yeah, I was like such a fan of Assassin's Creed 1, 2, Brotherhood. And when I played Revelations, my game at 25%, when it hit like 25% sync through the game, it just crashed and would not like let me open. I uninstalled it, reinstalled it, the saves were like all corrupted, so I started again. And I played through it, I was like, oh, it's only like 8 hours, I'll just play through it again. But when I got to 25% again, it just would not progress. And I never touched that game until like 2 years ago. And I was like, fuck Assassin's Creed, man. Fuck that whole franchise. And I just got so turned off it for so long.
Yeah.
I think that was a common thing with that game when it came out, Revelations. Because I pretty much, after Revelations, I kind of just stopped playing Assassin's Creed for a while. And then Origins came out. And then I got really back into it. Because Origins was really good. But I didn't care for Unity, and then there was the one in London. I can't remember the name of that one. Syndicate. That one I didn't really care for either. So, but Assassin's Creed, I'm happy they're going back to kind of what made it great in the first place, which is more linear, like style of play, and then close quarters. Rather than the whole open world thing, because that was kind of getting stale anyway, especially after the last one.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, real quick, let me go ahead and first I'm gonna get the 3x3s up, but also I do need to just call my mom back real quick. I'm gonna mute for just a second, and then I'll just cut this part out when we go into the thing. Oh wait, whoops, wrong thing. There we go. All right, 1 second.
Cool.
Which Fallout? Which Fallout game?
Which one?
Fallout?
Oh, 3.
Oh, I love 3.
Well, I think I told you the story. Like, I accidentally shot somebody in the nuke town, but when I went to go...
That's at the beginning of the game.
When I went to go load the save, I accidentally saved over my save. So I said, fuck this game, and I went back.
That's, I think only like a couple hours into the game.
Yeah, that's too many. I was like 10 years old. I didn't know how to play video games.
Oh, yeah, no. The first game that I had that issue with, when I was a kid, was GoldenEye. I couldn't understand what a first-person shooter game was, or what objectives, objectives were.
Yeah, I've had things like that too. Okay, let me go ahead and get this back on.
Real quick, Peter. Like, what's like when you were a kid? What was the first game that you kind of didn't fully understand how to play this certain type of video game? Like for me, it was GoldenEye when it came out on N64. I didn't understand first-person shooters because I was so used to playing like Mario games and that. and missions just didn't have, like, I couldn't figure out what the fuck you did in terms of like missions, objectives, and completing that. So like for you, what would be that game?
I had such a weird, even though, our generation, it's weird, like, we didn't really have tech. I don't know what the fuck Australia was going on with, like, I eventually got an Xbox, but like I started gaming on a like family PC,
Okay.
my father's games, and he played like Warcraft 3 and like Age of Empires 2.
Okay.
And I remember like trying to play these games as someone who hadn't played games, and like they were fucking so complicated, so complex. Like when he was telling me like, oh, in this mission you could have put your like cavalry on the hill and they would do more damage, and I was like, what? Like, I thought it was just like fucking the horses beat the knights or whatever.
Yeah,
like, I just know how chess works, and he's like, no, it's more complex.
I was just about to say, yeah, it's like the strategy games are like the closest thing you have to chess. Because you're trying to outsmart your opponent essentially, and maneuvering your men or whatever, building up certain bases in certain areas.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty.
And then you have Warcraft 3, and it's like you have fucking heroes with like moves and ultimates, and it's like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah. No, I played Warcraft 2 was like one of the very first games I ever played as a kid, and when Warcraft 3 came out, that was I was like, what the fuck? They completely revamped what Warcraft is, and then of course they came out with World of Warcraft, and then that was.
I remember, like there was I was playing this game and I was walking around and I like picked like up a couple of items, but I didn't know what I was doing. And all of a sudden, my cousin he comes over. I was maybe like 4 years old, and he comes over and he picks up the controller. Oh, he goes like, "No, you're supposed to do this," and he starts shooting everybody in the area and stealing cars. And it was Grand Theft Auto, and I didn't realize. I thought it was just a walking simulator, and yeah, he was like, "No, yeah, you're supposed to kill people in this game," and I was like, "What? That's fucking crazy." Or like, I remember South Park. I wasn't allowed to watch it at home, but my aunt would watch, or my cousins would watch it, and my aunt didn't care. And so I remember one time Cartman said some shit, and I just got up for some reason. I literally just stood up and just repeated it like word for word, and I said "fuck," and then I got like spanked and put into the corner for like 10 minutes or something like that. Yeah.
I think you might have watched actually the movie, because that's the first time.
Probably.
Yeah,
I think it was.
They said "fuck" because they always censored it.
What year was that?
That was 98.
It was
okay, yeah. Then that case, it was probably.
Metal Gear Solid. When I first played that game in grade school, I had no fucking idea what a stealth game was.
Okay.
I was like, I could not get past the first area.
Okay.
Which which is getting to the
elevator.
Yeah,
that one's hard. Yeah.
And then later on, it's like.
Finished Splinter Cell Double Agent, same reason.
Like,
stealth games are tough.
Yeah. I grew a love for him because of Splinter Cell. I especially the original trilogy. I absolutely love the original trilogy. Double Agent, I actually is the only one I think I didn't beat.
I've never been a fan of like turn-based combat, as I've said many times. But one of the games that I had a PSP, and I remember one of the games on the PSP that I had was called like Jeanne d'Arc. And so Joan of Arc. And so literally it was like this turn-based thing where you gather up all these soldiers and you go and you fight with the power of God or something like that. You get like God's speed and all this other shit. And it was like, that was the first thing that helped me like kind of figure out video games, because I was like, oh, there is like a strategy thing that you have to do here. But yeah, definitely there was a lot of that shit with YouTube for me too. Like I remember when I first found Philip DeFranco, I was like, wait a minute, there's a guy that just talks about things that are happening in the world. I don't understand. Why is this a thing? Or the various other things on YouTube. I'm like, or like podcasts. I'm like, wait, there's just people sitting here talking. Why would they like? And then obviously once I started to engage with it and understand it, I grew to enjoy the mediums. But when you're a kid, it's so different.
Having these combos, like I've had this many times with my friends, because I think here like Australia was behind, or like the neighborhood we grew up in, like. We didn't get phones until high school, and like laptops at the Christmas break between high school when you would have been like what 13 or something.
Okay.
We just like did not have our own access to the internet for like most of our childhood.
Okay.
Which is so interesting now. Like kids grow up with like TikTok and stuff.
Yeah.
And we're just like,
dude, when did you?
Like I remember the first time I played like
Uh-huh.
Red Dead Redemption, and I was like, what the fuck? Games are like open world, and I just like didn't do the missions. I would just run around like, oh, I can just send my cowboy over here and send him over here.
When did you like? So what, do your family had a computer? Did your family have a computer for as long as you can kind of remember, or do you remember getting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
we always had a computer, but it was like very like locked down.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, I remember. So for me, it was in like I was 9 when I got like a flip phone. And then so that like I remember like there was like the internet on it though, but obviously it was like super rudimentary, and it charged so much money.
Yeah, you had to hit the number 1 like 5 times.
Yeah,
in order to get a certain letter.
Exactly.
Web address.
Yeah, it was so annoying, and it's like it took you like 15 minutes to look up cars on Google.
Yeah, nobody was fucking with porn on flip phones.
No, it wasn't happening. No, it wasn't happening.
I'm not waiting for this.
Yeah, I'm not waiting for this to load. And then I remember we had a computer as pretty much as long as I can remember, and I just always liked like technology and all that other shit, so I just used it a lot and learned how to use it. And then I probably got an Xbox when I was like I had other gaming consoles like Nintendo when I was younger, but I got like an Xbox and Call of Duty when I was about 12 or 13, and my mom like absolutely didn't want me to have it, but my uncle was cool back then and he convinced her to do it, and I would play with him and his like buddies that were all in their 20s and 30s, and they would all be like, oh yeah, little Rocky, like, you know, go. They'd tell me to go camp, like, oh no, it's okay, don't worry, you're young, it doesn't matter. And so like I would play with him a lot. And then I kind of just obviously like grew up and separated from that. But I remember my mom always tried to put the game, like on the game console, you could put parent controls. And so it was one of the parent controls I would like play until fucking 4 o'clock in the morning. And so she would say like, oh, you have 2 hours a day to play. And so I remember what I did was I just kind of like Googled like how to get rid of password on Xbox or whatever. And then I remember they basically there was some link to just call Microsoft, and I just called up Microsoft and I was like, hey, because I had I hadn't hit puberty, I had the voice of a woman. I was like, hi, my son, I accidentally forgot the passcode, how do I reset it? And they were like, well, it'll reset the whole Xbox. But I was like, well, fuck it, if I get control of it 24/7, hell yeah, I'll do that anyway. So I went and I reset the whole thing. And it was funny because like my mom also tried to put locks on my phones and everything, and I was into like J-tagging Xboxes, modding controllers, like I loved like all of that fucking shit. And like, so my mom kind of just gave up when I was 13 because she was like, yeah, you get around every firewall we try to put, so fuck it.
It was funny, like for me growing up, like Nintendo was always like the first console that I think a lot of kids get. And then once you get like a PlayStation or an Xbox, you feel like an adult even if you're 10 years old.
From a Game Boy, from a Game Boy to like an Xbox.
Oh my god, I can finally play mature games now.
Yep.
You feel like grown up at that time.
Yeah.
Even the internet, I don't know if you guys probably didn't have to really deal with this, but for me, because the internet was still fairly fresh, I guess, is essentially my mom would probably, my guess is she watched the news all the time, so she was constantly hearing about chat rooms and kids being kidnapped and all this stuff. But then I lived in a townhouse right next door to my uncle who was working at like General Electric, and so he had like advanced computer parts. He always was into building computers and all that stuff. And I would always go by his house to go on the internet. But yeah, it took a while to convince my mom to finally like, all right, we'll get you the internet in the house.
Yeah, no, so like my mom would just she didn't want me to have it for the most part, but the thing was is I would always just like go and use shit at my friend's house or whatever it was.
The cool friends you go by.
Yeah, exactly. Where that was my friend, his name was Trevor. He watched the Boondocks and shit, then I'd watch it with him, and he had God of War, and that was the first time I saw tits in a video game.
Yeah,
you know, all the type of shit. And so
couldn't watch South Park at my house, but I could watch it by my uncle. My uncle was my uncle like he's a horrible person, but I thought he was cool because the things that I wanted to do as a kid, I was able to by his house.
No, I get you, because those restrictions, it makes you feel like there's something that like you're missing out.
And then it's like it's not that big of a deal.
No, it's really not. And having your kid engage with it is actually better than not. And because, for example, like when I engaged with shit on the internet, I learned a lot about like what to do and what not to do, who to fuck with and who not to fuck with. The problem is that there were other people that just didn't. There are some people that don't understand danger.
No, they're the ones that fall for the free candy.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like there were like, for example, like at times where there would be people that would like threaten me with like, oh, I'm gonna DDoS you, or I'm gonna whatever, and I'd be like, yeah, whatever, bro, I got you, you're not shit. But then there would be other people that would be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna DDoS you for the next 2 weeks, and on top of that, I'm gonna take down your Minecraft server, and also I'm gonna figure out your address, and I'm gonna send you a bunch of fucking pizzas that you have to pay for. And those guys usually would send you your address as is. And so like I knew when not to fuck with those people, but for some reason, like, and I just wouldn't work with those people, but for some reason there are just people out there that do not have any self-preservation instincts, and so they would literally work with these fucking people that are clearly going to fuck you over at the end of the day. And so like I guess the problem is like, depending on the type of, but again, most people also won't go as deep as I did, obviously. Most people just stay on the surface internet. I was I guess in a different category, but it just kind of depends on the kid. But I feel like most of the time the parent doesn't base it on the kid. The parent bases it on like what they feel subjectively, rather than like, oh, can my kid tell that this is just TV? As a kid? Yeah. Well, and also like, can your kid tell the difference between TV and reality? Like, oh, hey, you know that when you see something on TV, you're not supposed to replicate.
Well, I know
right?
that. Yeah. I can't fuck the hooker in the back seat and beat her with the baseball bat in real life. After you can only do that in Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, exactly. You can do it in real life, but there are powers at
like American Psycho. I guess you can do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, for sure. I think it is definitely interesting though. Yeah.
It's definitely interesting thinking back. I mean, I even remember like comparatively to now how like disconnected I was when like I had an Xbox and like a Wii, but I had like a few games on Xbox that we went and bought, and I was like, oh, thanks for this game, Dad, thanks for that game, whatever. And I just thought it was like so closed, and like that's what you get. And then when I went to high school, even though I had a laptop before then, I didn't really know how to like find shit, where I just like watched some YouTube and shit. But then all my friends were like, oh, we're playing Halo 3, and I was like, there's a Halo 3? And they're like, yeah, on the 360. And I was like, there's a 360? What the fuck?
Yeah, no, that was for me, that was kind of like I went to a private school, but I went there because my like grandma worked for the office, so like I got in for super cheap. So but I'd get teased like a motherfucker for being poor. And I remember though, I had a friend, her name was Megan, and she was very nice, and basically I went over to her house, and she had like the original Xbox, a 360, and the PlayStation. And she had fucking Rock Band with the full fucking kit and Guitar Hero. And having both of those fucking things, I was like, what the absolute fuck? How do you have such access? And so like that, or like I had like, another friend that had like all my friend Cody, he had like all the Nintendo games, basically every console, like the Smash Bros, new Smash Bros when it first came out, he had it day one. When I got a little bit older was when I started to get more current stuff, like when I was like 15, 16, like my parents did buy me a little bit more stuff because my dad was making more money at that point. But yeah, definitely there was like a culture shock like going from having barely anything to all that.
I ended up very lucky that like I would have to guess we were lower middle class or
Uh-huh.
whatever, and the school we went to was definitely not. I don't know how. I thank my parents for affording it, but like everyone had like 360s and shit, and my family was like, "Yeah, we'll buy you a 360, but we're not going to be able to like afford to spend like hundreds of dollars on games." So your father's just found this guy that will like send us a chipped one, and we'll just like, if you want to watch the new movies, we'll just like download the new movies because we can't afford to like buy movies at the shops. And I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah. No, yes. My uncle also was the one who taught me how to like torrent shit and whatnot. And I remember like my mom got mad, but it was funny because like, yeah, we were broke as shit. So she like went like, for example, she loved Fast and the Furious. I think this was when Fast 6 came out. And she was like, okay, fuck it, just download a cam version. I have to see it because and we had no fucking money. Or like I remember though, like I had to basically go behind my mom's back to get any of the stuff because she never wanted me to fuck with any of like she never wanted me to build a PC. Like, you know, this PC that Jason brought, we basically kind of rebuilt for the most part, like new motherboard, everything. And so like I was capable of doing things, and so I had to go behind like her back and to get like the torque screwdrivers that you needed for the controllers and the Xbox to pull it apart, and then the JTAG and everything. And I just remember the main thing that was hard to do was a soldering iron. Like that was the one thing I was like, I don't want to burn the fuck out of myself. And so also, of course, you have the chance of
or the house down.
Yeah, or the house down, or if you overdo it, you'll completely fuck your motherboard on the Xbox. So like you have to be very careful with it.
Yeah,
so
once you crack the console open, you break your warranty at that point.
Yeah, you're fucked at that
point. Which is why, like, when the red thing happened, luckily the red ring, everybody sit there and was able to get their 360s replaced.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine how much Microsoft lost after.
Oh, well, not only that.
Because you could get replaced multiple times.
Not only that, they basically had Red Ring of Death ones that were development kits. So basically then the development kits were able to be extracted, and then people were able to go and, you know, get every game that was being developed through their development kit and get early access to it, which was,
I know, like, if we do like a gaming 3x3, I think one of the most pinnacle moments in like gaming history is when Halo 2 got launched, and people were like, oh my god, what the fuck is Xbox Live? And every game came with these cards in the game case that gave you 30-day trials of Xbox Live, and people would just reuse them and like even go into Blockbusters and pull them out of cases just to but
I remember there was
that just changed the entire game once Halo went online.
What was the PlayStation one? There was like a
Killzone.
Killzone was one of the first. That one and Tony Hawk Underground Online were the two of the first ones that I played online. Because I had a PlayStation 2, I had a PlayStation 1, then I had a PlayStation 2, and then I went over to Xbox 360. So, but yeah. Okay. Anyway.
I mean, speaking of gaming 3x3s and 3x3s and stuff.
Yeah, perfect segue. So basically, let me go ahead and we'll start with. So Jason did a 2x3.
Yeah, you guys have. Oh, okay.
That's okay though. It's okay.
Jason has a 2x3, and you have a 3x3 of movie moments.
Yeah, that is correct.
Well, I have the moments like written down. I just put the posters.
No, but like, so it was supposed to be a 3x3.
Oh yeah.
So like that.
Well, yeah. Okay. I was thinking 3x3 vertically.
Well, this is 3x2, but that's okay. That's okay. Because 1, 2, you know what I mean? That's okay. So let's see here. Let me put that there.
So humorous miscommunication where I just did moments across everything, but we can just flip it, and I can just do movie moments next podcast, and you guys can do the other
movie moments
podcast or something.
Oh, I mean, yeah. However you want to do it. I mean,
or we can do gaming next time.
Yeah, I'm down to do that
movie
next.
Next.
Yeah,
we can do that.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Is the screen sharing?
Just loading it. Yes.
Okay, there we go. So this is Jason's. Now let me go ahead and hold on and just adjust this on the camera here to make sure we just have that 3x3. All right, perfect. So, Jason, I am really impressed with this. There's a couple on here I didn't expect you to put. and let's go ahead and let's talk about it. So go ahead, whatever order you want to start in, Jason. Let me go ahead and pull up the. I know you had a little.
Well, I have it in my head.
Okay, so yeah, you can go ahead then.
Yeah. So the first one is The Dark Knight, and it really is just Heath Ledger's Joker. And I was trying to think. It was a tie between the two most iconic moments I think, or scenes in this in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Are the hospital scene.
Uh-huh.
And including when he's dressed up like the nurse and walks away from the explosion.
Fair.
And then does it like all freestyle essentially, because it fucking doesn't go right. And then the other moment is the semi truck scene. And when Batman is basically coming in on the bat cycle, and then Joker shoots the gun, and he's like, "I want you to hit me." It's such a fucking when I saw it in the Dark Knight in the theaters, and I saw that moment, I literally got goosebumps. I was like, that is one of the best scenes I've ever seen in a movie. So even though it's a tie, I probably would give the edge to the scene where Batman is basically diverts the bat cycle.
Yeah, I agree. Actually,
that
Joker. Is a great scene. Yeah, cool. I fully agree on that one. So 4 out of 4. Go ahead. What's your next one?
So Do the Right Thing. When Radio Raheem dies at the end, that fucking I never read about what the movie was about. I never seen any spoilers. I've seen maybe probably like a scene at most. But I always heard the name Radio Raheem. I just didn't know what it meant.
Yeah.
But that moment when he is killed by the cop and there's a whole riot. Yeah. And it's just one of the
very
best
moving scene. Peter, if you haven't seen that movie, it's Spike Lee film. You absolutely should add that to the list. It is intense, but it is extremely good. And also, that's actually a perfect one for analysis. But it's not like a horror or anything. It's more like a drama. And it even has some dark comedy a little bit at the beginning. So, but that one is honestly one of, and for some reason it escapes my mind sometimes, but that's probably one of my top films of all time. Is Do the Right Thing. It's an amazing film, and it really portrays racial tensions and how the little things can just add up.
It's still current even even today, which is
100%.
Then the next one I had was Jurassic Park.
Basic.
And, there's a lot of moments in the movie, the first Jurassic Park, that I really like, but the one scene that I enjoy the most is because of John Williams' score, as well as the directing of Steven Spielberg, all coming together in the moment when the T-Rex saves everyone from the Velociraptors, and then you hear the Jurassic Park theme kick in, and it's just, and then the T-Rex roars and the banner comes down, and it's just amazing moment that I could see the movie only once. They would always stick in my head.
Okay.
And then The Prestige is the end when you find out there's the clones as well as he has a twin brother, which is
amazing ending.
In a million years I couldn't have guessed that was going to be the ending.
Yeah.
It's one of my. I think if it wasn't for The Dark Knight, I would have The Prestige probably as my favorite Christopher Nolan movie.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible.
It is.
Then a horror movie, Saw, the first one. The ending to the first Saw is one of the most what the fuck moments in horror film history, in my opinion. When you see Jigsaw was in the room the entire fucking time, and then he gets up, I was like, what the fuck? I was freaking out because I was like, what? The whole movie just completely, you look at it in a completely different perspective because of that end scene, and it's one of my favorite scenes in horror films.
Absolutely. Fair.
And then The Matrix, there's a lot of great moments in The Matrix. I was trying to think if I enjoy the lobby scene more or the end. And I enjoy the end more. I enjoy when Trinity says, "Get up, Neo." He gets up, he stops the bullets, and then he just says no, and then he jumps in to Mr. Smith, and just it's The Matrix 1 is by far the best Matrix movie by a million miles.
Fair.
And that scene is my favorite scene from that movie.
Absolutely fair. Okay, cool. No, I mean, I like this list particularly. Yeah, Do the Right Thing and Prestige, and all the other ones I fully understand as well. Saw is the one I didn't really expect either, so that's interesting to see on there. Yeah. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and get mine pulled up here. Now, mine is not necessarily all the best like scenes that I've seen, but there is kind of like a theme for it. I'll say that. So give me a second here. Let me kind of adjust this. Or wait, no. There we go. Okay, and then like that, and then kind of just. There we go. Okay, perfect. So basically, what I tried to do here is I kind of went from like first row is like stuff as a child that were like scenes or movies that kind of stuck with me. The second row was particularly horror that stuck with me, and the third row is twists that stuck with me. Now there are like other films, like quick shout outs for like, for example, The Shining, all work no play makes Jack a dull boy. That is one of the best scenes. Videodrome, the TV gun scene, I would give a shout out. For David Lynch's Lost Highway, I'd give a shout out to like the phone call scene at the beginning with Pullman. There's pretty much most of Kubrick's catalog, as well as Lynch and Cronenberg. Shout out all those. But first one would be Shark Boy and Lava Girl. I absolutely fucking loved that movie as a kid, and particularly the Dream song, Dream, 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 Dream. It stuck with me, and I absolutely just like adored that film. Then we have Spy Kids. I think this particular picture is from number 2. Mine, I would actually be more towards the first Spy Kids. And the scene, I don't necessarily have a scene for it, although I do love the beginning where we kind of get the introduction. I believe Antonio Banderas is like the dad, and he gets like attacked and all that. I like love that intro. It's so much fun and really set up a pretty great movie. The next one is Parent Trap. With Lindsay Lohan. I believe it was her first film. That movie was another one. Like a shout out Matilda as well. The trench bowl scene. That's another quick shout out. But for this movie, I love Dennis Quaid. He's one of my favorite fucking actors for some reason, because he's just been in a lot of the movies that I liked as a kid, and he's almost like a comforting person to like look at for me for some reason. But in this movie, they have a scene where they go on this camping trip, and that blonde girl is basically like Cruella DeVille, and like Lindsay Lohan is playing twins, and she basically like fucks with her by putting like a lizard on her water bottle and like all this other stuff, and like puts like honey on her like in the night so bees or something come out or something and attack her. It's like over the top and really funny, but pretty ridiculous. Then the next one we have The Strangers. Now this movie isn't necessarily even like one of the best suspense thrillers, but I saw it when I was like probably 11 or 12, and basically the whole thing is this couple is being just attacked by these 3 people in this fucking middle of nowhere cabin, and they don't really know why. And at the end, they kind of reveal that like there really isn't a reason why. And as they drive off, they say it'll be easier next time. And that final line of like it'll be easier next time always really like fucked with me, because I'm like, oh yeah, like that desensitization is like something that would heavily occur there. And so like that one always really stuck with me. The next one is the original Pet Sematary.
Not the remake.
Fuck the remake. The remake is dog shit. Fuck the TV show that's based on the remake. I'm still very mad about that. This movie I watched when I was like probably 12. at my aunt's house, and the whole film actually kind of like lulled me a little bit because it doesn't really have that crazy of imagery until the end. It basically has like like he buries the cat comes back and it's evil, and they have a couple of other scenes where like they get warned and whatnot, but like I did not expect like him to bury the child after his child gets hit by a truck, then the child comes back and like scalpels the throat of the next door neighbor.
Well, and the original guy who sits there and warns him not to.
Yeah, not to bury him up there. Yeah, he like gets
dude's
fucked.
voice is so fucking.
Oh, I love that guy. Yeah, don't go up there. See, if you bury him there, then they don't come back the same. The soil is spoiled.
South Park did a milkman episode.
The milkman's fucking your wives.
Yes, man, it's fucking your wives.
100%. Yeah, and no, but also that character is like basically a recurring character. If you got like either in a lot of schlocky movies, like even in Motel Hell, they kind of have like they don't have quite the same accent, but there's like usually an old farmer guy who's got some weird knowledge that's like trying to like tell people. And so the ending of that movie, absolutely insane. And then especially like the wife, he like the wife ends up being killed by the toddler. He buries the wife because at this point he's like fully insane, and then the wife comes in with a mouthful of like dirt, and it says like honey I'm home, and like embraces him and then stabs him in the back, and it goes to black. Always stuck with me. The next one was something that we watched more recently as well. This one is called Possession. It's a very intense horror film with Sam Neill. It's all that one would be a good analytical piece to watch later on. And I do recommend it. It is a good film. Basically it's kind of about lust and about cheating, and about Sam Neill has this relationship that's kind of devolving, but then there's kind of this physical manifestation of like this thing that's encompassing their marriage. It goes really crazy, but the main thing that I would say is that there's a scene where the wife is cutting vegetables with some like circular saw type thing, and she starts just cutting into her arm casually and continues doing it, and it looks very, very realistic. It was so fucking intense, and definitely stuck with me. Next we have Chinatown. So Chinatown, the whole thing is like from front to back an absolute trip. It's it feels like a film that is gonna go nowhere. However, it wraps up in such a perfect way that makes so much sense that it makes so much sense that it almost doesn't make sense. Like I really expected with the way it was building up for it to just be nonsensical, but they close it perfectly, and the closing line of just leave it, Jake, it's Chinatown had always stuck with me as well. And I've always wanted to do a song kind of based on that. Then The Machinist with Christian Bale. Well, obviously one of the main things that makes this memorable is his fucking absolute complete anorexia here. But beyond that, I would think that the like twist and everything, it was very good. This is a main film that like inspired The Recluse as well, as alongside that Silent Hill game. Considering like insomnia is a main factor in here for him, and a couple other things. And so the reveal was great, as well as like just him being that skinny gave it this like creepy atmosphere. And then finally is The Usual Suspects, which is a mystery film where basically Kevin Spacey, terrible guy, I know, but he basically is getting questioned about this guy named Kaiser Soze, which the other movies will mention like a Kaiser Soze, and it's supposed to be this kind of mythical guy who's a mob boss who kills everybody that he sees, and he is untouchable and nobody can get him. And so the whole film, like he's kind of describing the setup between his criminal crew and like what happened with this boat and Kaiser Soze. And as the film progresses, at the end it's revealed that Kevin Spacey, who was pretending to be like disabled and whatnot, was actually Kaiser Soze. And it's like very subtle in the way that it kind of reveals it at the end too, although they parody it at the end of Scary Movie, I think 1, where basically like Officer Doofy walks off and then he like tosses the mask. It's a similar type thing. But so that one has always been one of my favorite twists in films as well. So those are my 3x3 of moments that stuck with me from those various categories.
Okay.
All right, let me go ahead and kill it. So what one? What do you got for us?
Did you watch We Can Be Heroes?
Watch what?
We Can Be Heroes.
I
Robert Rodriguez.
I don't think so.
So it's like a follow-up to Shark Boy and Lava Girl with Shark Boy and Lava Girl's children.
Oh wait, I did hear about this, but I never watched it.
Yeah, I mean it's not good, but it's very.
It's got a 74%. Why does this have a 74%? Yeah, what?
Oh.
Holy shit! Audience score is 40. Wow, they must have paid. They paid. For sure.
What's the what I'd be curious about? 74%, 6 out of 10 makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's like
fair.
it's passable. Yeah, okay. They have. I don't think Taylor Lautner came back, but I think the Lava Girl actress came back because she's in the thumbnail there. But like, they have. If I'm remembering correctly, I might be just making this up because I'm seeing the thumbnail here, but I think Pedro Pascal plays Shark Boy.
Fuck yes.
Like, great. But then they get captured at the start of the film and their kids have to save them and they're like not in the rest of the film.
No, they did that with Owen Wilson. There was this like Nickelodeon movie that it showed him as a superhero, but basically like he flies away at the beginning of the film and it's just the kids the entire time, and he comes back at the end for 2 seconds after the film's like basically over. It seems to be a pretty common thing.
We watched that recent. There was a recent one that where basically the kid's dad was a superhero, and then him and his friends find his. Oh, that's
what I'm talking about. Yeah,
that one was
the one with Owen
recent.
Wilson. Yeah, that was like a couple years ago, a year ago, maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah, that they just paid Owen Wilson a lump sum of money.
Yeah, 100%. So that way they could get saves in there. I don't know why my phone keeps going. So yeah, but did you have like a 3x3 for us, Peter?
Yeah. Well, I've got. Yeah. Well, I did just across all media. But I might put together, even if we do other shit, I might put together like a movies one next week.
Okay.
So I got runners up. I did a little thing.
Okay.
If that works, and then I can probably just pull the image into here and share it as well. Just the fucking Halo 3 Warthog thing was fun. Sweet. Yeah, I mean, the Halo 3 Warthog thing was like one of my favorite Halo moments. The fucking... I don't know whether you guys have gotten it yet, but I remember the morning after I played Cyberpunk the first time, then seeing all of the reviews, the morning after... The next mission that I got was this mission at like a campfire where this guy's just strumming away at his guitar. And I was like, I saw how many people were shitting on it after like the first day it had been out.
Okay.
But then the next time I played, I got this mission and I was like, yeah, I can't hate this game. Like, it's just too good.
Okay. Based.
And then the Carrie song, again, just strumming a guitar. I really like the guitar moments in this game.
Okay.
I just sit and listen. But how do photos? Actually, I don't know if I can. If I just do, there we go. Okay.
Oh my God, there's gay porn.
Does that work? Okay. Cool. So mine's so fucking cross media, but episode 3, when the whole betrayal and stuff happened.
Okay.
I think I ended up watching the other stuff beforehand, but like Star Wars Episode 3 was one of the first ones that I watched, and that one was very like just fucking impactful to see the whole betrayal and everything that led up to it.
Yeah, for sure, I can see that.
At that point. Saints Row 2.
Okay.
I don't know whether you guys have played this. I feel like Jason might have
Jason has. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Saints Row 2 is one of my like all-time favorites. And when as one of the first like open world games I played when one of your just like homies dies in a side mission, like this guy that I had like gotten to like just in a random side mission. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I thought only people died at like the ends of games and stuff, and it just really hit me hard, and I was like really upset about it for a while because I think I was like 12 or 13 when I was playing it, and I was like, that's my boy. I can't believe they just kill off characters in games. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
2000 AD is this comic series that my father just bought like a massive box of like comics, and I think the Apocalypse War was the arc that I read the most, which was very fucking good. But I just liked the whole comic series in general. I don't know if you guys have read or seen. There was like a Sylvester Stallone Judge Dredd movie, which wasn't that good, but like
Yeah, the
it's
Dredd
very like
movie with
cyberpunk
Carl Urban
RoboCop-y.
was pretty good.
That one was pretty good, yeah.
Okay.
I'm crossing my fingers because I think Amazon has the rights. Maybe they'll make like a good movie or show. But I really just liked how gritty and how the like cyberpunk world was, and you know, Judge Dredd just controlling everything.
Yeah, they did with Dread. They basically kind of duplicated the raid and just put it in a Judge Dredd
Yes.
universe, which was I was all for it. I love that. I love the raid. So
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like my early stuff. And then the more recent, more impactful stuff, the Volkanovski Ortega fight I put in, this was like the UFC fight where I got super invested in just UFC in general and started watching pretty much all of it. Watching old mate get choked out and just tank it. And then I just remember that moment screaming, like, do not tap out. Somehow he didn't. The Fortnite Rocket event was fucking dog shit time for Australia. It was like 5 a.m. But I remember waking up, hearing like, oh, there's going to be some Fortnite event. And I was like, oh, cool, an in-game event. That's interesting. And yeah, witnessing the fucking first in-game event really sold me for quite a while. I continued playing for like way too long on that game. I got way too invested. The fucking moments before disaster photo of the 2019 World Championship G2 versus FPX was like the first time I got invested in sporting before UFC or anything.
Okay.
Watching this esports, following this team along. In their first year that I was really following, they made it all the way to the final, and I was like, cool. Stayed up till like 3 a.m. and it ended up going until 6 a.m., which wasn't that long because they just got completely decimated 3-0. But ever since then, I've been very invested, and I've been waiting for a win, hopefully, which is just never going to happen. But it's just one of those things where I watched it and I was like, you know what, like next 5 years, I'm just going to watch everyone now. Like, I'm invested in this, the actual sport here.
Yeah.
Then, so during COVID, 2001 AD, I stumbled on very cheaply, which I'd never seen. And I watched this a couple of times over like the first week or two that I bought it. And this was the film that I watched where I was like fully convinced on going to film school, because there was so much going on with COVID here and we couldn't do anything. And my course that I was doing was just grinding to a halt. And I was like, I just want to change something up. And I just watched this film and I was like, this film is just like so good and so well designed and blah, 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 blah. I want to just like go learn properly how to do this. And because of watching that film, I just like left. I feel like it was a part of why I just left everything, went away. And then a couple years later, Raw similarly very much reignited my passion as one of the films that I watched where I was like just starting to not like the industry as much, but I was like, fucking hell, like sometimes they're just, and there's just two films here that it's just sometimes you're like, you know, makes me want to make films. And then of course, any of the endings, no spoilers for Cyberpunk. Like,
Okay.
that game has definitely topped my list of gaming stuff, story-wise. Very impactful. Um, I'll definitely have to put together like a proper 3x3 for movie moments next time around. But yeah, that's what I
Cool.
came up
Yeah,
with.
no, I definitely, for sure. I feel you on the raw and the other stuff. Yeah, there's just certain films that, like, yeah, when you see them, I totally get that. It just feels like,
They
oh,
just stick with you.
yeah, that creativity, and it just inspires so much. And yeah, that's why I have the like movies that stuck with me, like list and whatnot. So yeah, no, it's a good list, and we'll put together, probably either some video game 3x3 or something along those lines next time. I have a couple ideas for like video games and whatnot.
Yes.
So yeah, 100%. Let me go ahead and switch it back over to your camera here. There we go. Okay. Well, let's see, how far are we into this one? We're about an hour and
We've done pretty
34.
decently, yeah.
Yeah. Are you? So, do we have anything else that we wanted to cover, or are we all
Yeah,
good?
well, I didn't fully read everything,
Uh-huh.
but the stuff that I skimmed on the, it's like not agreed, but it's like an announced agreement that they might agree to for the WGA strike, right? But they haven't like
Yeah.
Yeah,
agreed to
that
it yet.
tangible agreement, I believe it
Yeah.
is.
The stuff that I've read is, I feel like, very concession heavy for what they should be getting. I feel like the studios are getting a pretty significant dub if some of this stuff goes through. There's stuff like a writer cannot be forced to use AI to write a script,
Uh-huh.
but there's nothing stopping them from using AI to write a script. They're just saying they can't be forced to do it. But like they
Yeah.
can just hire other writers until one of them agrees to use AI. Like it's
Yeah. Well, the
not great
one
in
the
those
one issue
terms.
too is that you can't force the studios to do business with you either. So like you could theoretically request that you don't use AI all you want, and even if they got that concession for a little bit, like sooner or later, the odds are that they would utilize it at some point. Because I mean, there's nothing in America that says like, hey, you're not allowed to automate jobs away. So unless we put forward some new legislation, they can just hire outside of the union. You know what I mean? And then that kind of gets
Yeah, well,
around everything.
that was exactly one of the other ones I saw was something like the WGA holds the rights forever to remind studios that it is frowned upon to use AI for productions. And
Yeah,
I was like, well, they're
it's like
not. They
so
could,
nothing.
yeah, they could put in the agreement you're not allowed to do it, but they're like, no, because the laws are going to change, so we'll just say that we don't like that you're doing it. Like, I assume the pay rises that they're getting is very good. I don't really
Yeah.
know the
There was a
American
couple of
economy.
things, like basically it was saying that they're getting rid of what's called, I guess, mini rooms, where basically they would hire like a very small bare bones staff to do massive projects. So now they're like, based on the amount of episodes that you have to apparently have a certain number of writers. The main thing that I would say is what it sounds like is that AI was one of the big fears here, and what a lawyer basically was not able to get any concessions for AI, and they wanted it to sound like they say something. So that's when like you have this professional speak of like, oh yeah, we have the right to disagree with the use of AI. It's like, well, you already have that right. Nobody was saying that you didn't.
Yeah.
So
They've
yeah, like
gotten like,
mhm.
I assume they've gotten good pay, but when I saw an agreement was reached, or they've started to reach an agreement, I was hoping it would be, along the lines of like, the one thing I really think, even if
Yeah,
we're like saying AI is going to become a thing, you should have to put in credits or in advertising if AI was used. You
yeah,
shouldn't be able to put like written by so and so random dude who used AI. You should have to put
yeah.
like written with AI or something.
I agree with that.
Especially
Yeah.
in advertising, like it really needs to be something that's like a caveat on film posters or whatever, so that people know if it's
Okay.
human made or AI made.
All right,
But
so give
there's
me about
nothing
three
about that in
years.
the.
Give me about 3 years, and once I pass the bar, we'll go for it. Fuck it. We'll go and I'll try to put forward something for real. No, I'm not kidding. That actually we could there's a real possibility that you could get that potentially passed, because I mean in California, like we were the first ones to make it so you have to put calories on menus. You know what I mean? So like to say like, hey, like if you're making some or like you know, we have to put on there if it's used pesticides or if it's been GMO or whatever. So you know, to say, hey, this is AI generated, like it's not doing anything other than allowing the populace to make more of an informed decision. And the only reason to fight against that is to keep the populace in the dark. So I think that would actually be like a really solid legislation to push for. So we'll have to keep that.
Imagine most people, unless you're online or social media in general, don't know the Secret Invasion opening cinematic is all made by AI.
Yeah, no, a lot of people have no idea the level of AI these days. It's so complicated, like for most people, you know. Go ahead.
The fact that the studios are like conceding on the money, it seems like, and not the AI stuff, it just pushes my fears more that they're like really looking at doing this stuff. And like I mean, it seems so clear to me that the AI is the big stickler here. Like the writers were very much after pay rises and were concerned about like script writing and stuff, but that fucking ship's kind of sailing. Like people are using ChatGPT to write shit left and right now, whereas the actors were fucking insanely concerned about their likenesses being used by AI and all this shit. Yeah. And they haven't reached a deal because I think the studios, all of the AI shit, they do not want to agree to. I think they want to just have it open and be like, we don't really know what's going to happen with AI, so we just want to be able to work out what happens and then agree to terms later. Yeah. So I don't know if the actors are going to reach a deal, because Disney fucking loves doing like Luke Skywalker and all these characters.
I mean, realistically, the best way that here's the best case scenario. Everything goes AI, but there's a legislation passed that every time somebody's likeness or script, if like an AI utilizes a certain script to pull from ideas, etc., then it automatically applies a revenue to those people or something along those lines. Like that's because at the end of the day, it is gonna. Or here's another situation: is that everything gets far more decentralized because cameras are extremely cheap, and when you're putting together project plan, like for example, a project manager, you can use an AI to help you figure out the steps to get a movie done, or a scene done, or various other things, or like even like with the whole writing code, if you're like, hey, I want you to tell me how to write this code, then it'll literally like give you, oh, here's the step-by-step of how you're going to make this game or whatever it is. So it can also go a decentralized way where, hey, maybe like everybody kind of has access to films and whatever's best floats to the top, but then you're always going to have the big like money studios like pulling like derivative of whatever the newest like edge thing is that's like making the most money.
Well, ChatGPT sucks at writing scripts, because I sit there and recently just tried to do an assignment, and I had all the details of how my characters are gonna die, the names, their personalities. I basically was just I didn't have the full story planned out. Yeah. But I was trying to include everything, and ChatGPT kept changing my characters' names, changing
Bard
their
is better.
Yeah.
Shout out. Not sponsored. Bard is better.
Yeah, I tried using Bard, and it basically wouldn't. It didn't help me any further.
Yeah, for me, like Bard was the only one that like actually like gave me like pretty decent, like when I asked it for trivia, and I asked it to like help write certain things, or like even certain code aspects. Like that one was the one that helped me the most. ChatGPT, there's a big issue too of it's not current. Like it's back from, I think 2021 is the most recent data that it has as well. And things like that. So like when you're looking for like certain new things, like it doesn't give you that. But yeah, there is of course still going to be like, it'll take time, but there are also going to be like AI like things that are made specifically for script writing. Like ChatGPT isn't made specifically for script writing. I'm sure that somebody out there is probably coding an AI that's just going and reading every script in the bank and churning out algorithms on how to write it. So that's probably where that'll end up going. But who knows?
But yeah, visual effects are unionized, and they're kind of fucked. Yeah, for the future, because if you haven't unionized already, like studios aren't going to be really all about like, hey, let's allow the visual effects artists to unionize now after we figured out we can just use, AI to basically make opening cinematics and all that type of stuff. So
I finally got. So some of the streaming stuff was the other thing that I thought was absolute shite.
Okay.
Because like the foreign residuals have gone up based on the number of foreign subscribers by 76%, but they were significantly low. The one that I saw that I thought was disgusting was they've got a new bonus for viewership, but it requires a show or a movie to be watched by 20% of the service's subscriber base in the first 90 days.
Oh, I see that here.
50% of the residuals.
That's
so like
insane.
It's only for the top shows. Like they should have been getting like every episode that you're in, you get like paid X amount for residuals, but they've gone only if it's super successful in the first couple of months do you get paid a little bit. Like it's so concession heavy. But I guess the writers were like, it's tough because like it sounds like they didn't have that much money, and it's like you need to keep like it's.
Yeah, they were in a bad spot. It wasn't gonna go very well for them if they continued much further. So, I mean, they got what they got, and we'll just kind of see where it goes. I mean, there's really no way to know until time tells now, I suppose.
The stuff that you guys were just mentioning about the AI as well, I also see AI cannot rewrite literary material or use literary material as source material.
Okay.
So you can't create like a script. From what I'm understanding, I mean, you'd have to look at what legally the
anything
MDA
in public
domain,
it would probably be able to
would that count like any script? Like, can you not train an AI to write scripts based off of existing scripts?
You can train it. You could probably just train it based off of public domain. Obviously, if it's copyrighted, there may be issues. But even right now, like they use copyrighted images to make other images, and there isn't real legislation around that. So theoretically, there's nothing fully stopping them. But the most legal way to do it would be to just like find a like list or like put together a list of every script that's in public domain and just have it kind of build algorithms based off that. And then it can also like even add them as they go in.
It's very interestingly worded that like AI generated material cannot be used to rewrite, considered source material. They literally even have the explanation of like AI generated material will not be used to undermine writers' credits or rights. So it sounds like they've tried to put something together so that AI can't replace writers, but I don't really understand.
It sounds like
how that's going to help.
I think they're kind of like saying that they're not, if they're going to utilize the writers, that they're not like able to just go in and then rewrite the material.
Yeah, like
fully.
It can't be. Well, Paul wore a red jacket in the writer's version, and now he's wearing a yellow jacket.
Yeah, because the AI changed it. So like you have to utilize the writers and get writers' consent, but it says nothing about if they want to utilize the AI without any writers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, like you would just get a non-unionized person, or maybe you would just even get an AI specialist to go in there and I guess pump them out. But yeah, there is nothing stopping them for the most part for using it.
Polygon actually has an explainer. A studio can give a writer a script generated by an AI and tell them to rewrite it, but the studio will have to pay the writer for writing the script and credit them as such.
Okay.
Rather than paying them the rate of a rewrite.
Got it. So that makes sense. That's better. That's better. Yeah. So if they're going in and they're just using a generated AI script and having somebody tweak it, like they basically have to get paid for the full script as if they wrote it from scratch.
Yeah, and I mean
that's good.
Having the one where it says like 50% residuals, but you have to have 20% of the subscriber base watch it. I mean, most of the time Netflix will have, like, for somebody like Netflix, they always have the new and trending, and they always, even if it's the worst piece of garbage, they'll always push
Not always. There's been a lot of complaints, especially I've seen, but like there's like a 3-day window, I think, that if you don't get shit like you don't get clicks and whatnot, then they start like pushing it on pretty quickly within Netflix. There was something along those lines that was being talked about not too long ago.
I mean, my big hope was not only like the pay and writers' rights, but hopefully, like it feels like with that one, it kind of is like, okay, well, no more crappy writing because we've seen some of the worst writing, like in terms of movies and like TV shows.
Where did you get that from?
Well, basically, if you want 20% of the subscriber base to watch your show,
okay,
you better have some good writing.
Yeah, no, but I think the main thing is that 20% line is, first of all, arbitrary, and second of all, is it dependent on territory? Right, like if this is something that's in English, are you telling me that it has to be 20% of the English-speaking user base?
Yeah,
like
specify that.
So yeah, if it's that, then I can see that making a little more sense. But even then, it's like, are we doing both UK and American user base, or if it's an American-made show, are we doing 20% American? And really, at the end of the day, you probably should have it more specified, where it's like, yeah, obviously, there are some people in the US that watch these British shows, but like it's much less common now than it was like even 5 years ago.
It's it's like the more you read into everything, it's just not great. Like the NBA will receive bonuses for half-hour episodes, blah 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 blah, and they'll receive a $40,500 for streaming feature films if the budget is over $30 million.
That's fucking crazy, dude.
Like everything has such like big caveats on it. That like the only beneficial thing for like us, genuinely, like the one thing they've really lost out on is like all of the streaming services have to release publicly their watch information, viewership, and hours watched and stuff. So they can't really fudge if shows are popular or stuff anymore. But like the numbers required to get paid is like so ridiculous. Like, as far as I've seen, based on how many people are like One Piece, right? Fucking was trending for 2 weeks, blah 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 blah. But I don't even think that would have hit the 20% because it only got 18 million viewers or something, which is like Netflix has, I think, 150. I guess it would have, but like only barely.
No, is it 150 only in America?
I think they have 150 million in America. I think they have 3. I mean, not sure. But I think One Piece got, so they have 76, and One Piece got 18 million.
Okay.
So it would have passed.
Yeah, it would have hit it.
Yeah.
But that's just crazy that, like,
but it also is like that show was like $30 million in an episode, so that was like most of the $30 million mark. Like all independent studios, anything that A24 or Blumhouse pushes out, none of this really matters because they pay their writers. They all their people that work with those studios, they're all independent anyway.
Yeah, they are.
So like the major studios and that type of stuff, I mean, all the budgets are over $30 million for all of that stuff easily. Most of the time, it's rare you don't see something that's over 30.
It's really fucked on the actual major studio side because I saw people comparing like Nami got like $200,000 and per episode, I think, and the star of She-Hulk got $350 for the whole show.
Yeah,
and that's not. There's no like. I think people were comparing Zorro, but I saw that Nami got more than the She-Hulk star, even though Zorro got fucking way more. But the issue, it's not like a sexist thing that Disney doesn't pay women. They just don't pay anyone. Like, I think, who's the WandaVision actress? Like, she got barely anything for that show.
Elizabeth Olsen, yeah.
Yeah, she's like a massive fucking movie star. She got like barely anything for that show. Like,
yeah, no, Disney always pays nothing because that's why they always like brought in no names for the most part to play the characters or people that had been in very little things. So that way they could just pay them a small amount, and then later on they would get a little bit of like leeway because the movies got big. They did the same thing with like the Star Wars trilogy where they brought in no names so they could pay them like I think whatever her name is got $100,000 for like the first Star Wars movie or something like that, which it's like, that's for a Star Wars movie. I just wouldn't expect like $100,000 because like you spent like however long shooting that, a year and a half maybe. Like yeah, that's definitely a lot.
I wonder if it would is gonna cause studios to finally lower their budgets.
Or lower their output, mostly is what I'd prefer. Like lower the output and just put out more quality shit.
Yeah, but lowering the budget, if you lower the, I mean, I guess it would. If
you're cutting out other shows already, then you're already gonna cut it. But I agree too. You don't need to have like a lot of these shows have these massive budgets too. But I agree for sure.
I mean, the one thing is like something like Disney Plus and like the reason why I go to She-Hulk a lot is because it's one of the worst written shows I've ever seen in my life. And it
has such a big budget.
It had such a big budget, but I don't know what the viewership numbers were on that show. I mean, it should have been, given the quality of it. But like the studios are gonna get fucked on a show like that, because essentially your budget's gonna be over $30 million easily.
Yeah.
And if it's one of the worst written shows, and the word of mouth becomes more important, people are like, I ain't fucking watching that shit, or there wasn't
like a bubble.
Yeah.
None of the streaming services really make money. They're just kind of, I mean, I think Netflix has such a large base they can, but like HBO and Disney, I do not think make money.
Here's the thing. HBO and Disney doesn't, and they don't necessarily need to because they make money elsewhere. They merchandise, etc. Netflix doesn't do that. Netflix is basically just an in-house production and streaming site, which like their biggest asset is definitely still their streaming. It's not even, and the IPs they hold, it's not even their like main like shows, because they produce so many shows that do absolutely nothing. They've for so long put out so many shows and put out such an output simply so that they can kind of like say that they have the most to offer and kind of bloat their value. And then what they do is they write off these losses on taxes, and they make it look like they're not making money, but they're paying bonuses hand over fist to their fucking CEO and their fucking executive board. And at the end of the day, the only reason they do like such an output is because they want to just break even on taxes. They don't want to have, or even show a bit of a loss if you're in the fourth quarter, so that way you don't get fucked for the next, tax season. So at the end of the day, it looks better on the books to use as much money as possible, but that's good for the economy, right? Like the more Netflix technically puts out, that's why this is like kind of how the economy incentivizes it. The more they put out, the more jobs that are created, the more money that's being handed out to whoever the fuck is working on the show, etc. But then you get these dog shit shows. So at the end of the day, they need to lower their output, put out more quality stuff, because they don't need to be like they need to be more like HBO. Now HBO is becoming more like Netflix, but like be like how HBO was like a year ago. Be that guy. This Max shit is just so fucking ridiculous. They're putting out these shows that are just look like dog shit. I just can't. Gen V also makes me want to shoot. I know that's Paramount, I think, but that makes me want to shoot myself.
I'm really waiting to see
Velma on Max.
Yeah, that's a fucking banger. I love that show. It's a great show.
I've really been waiting to see what the Gen V user scores are going to be, because I think it was like 100% or something critic score.
No.
So I was like, okay, let's
That's ridiculous.
Let's see. But yeah, like I'm really interested to see how these strike ripples, because I know the WGA voted to strike on video games, writing wise, which hopefully they get good deals for the writers there. But I feel like visual effects artists and like developers should be looking at this. I know as the foreign residuals go through to Netflix, I'm fucking hoping like the anime studios that have shows on Netflix see their residuals go up and say, hey, we should ask fucking Sony for some money, as opposed to just selling our souls for nothing.
I mean, I imagine like the video game writers they have to get more. I mean, because they're not making stories for like an hour and a half of a shitty Adam Sandler movie. Like there's 20 hours they have to write for, which they have more writers, but still.
I think a lot of these industries are so locked into the fucking fucking 6 day a week, fucking 9 to 9 work
Yeah.
shit, and like horrible work structure. But I saw last week or 2 weeks ago, for the first time since like 1970, there's been a worker strike in Japan. So
oh my god.
hopefully,
oh my
like,
god,
video
the
game
revolution.
Yeah.
Class consciousness is occurring. Thank you, Marx. You've done as well. Jesus.
Genuinely, if like they have some writers and animators striking, it would
That's
be
based.
very
No, dude,
beneficial.
especially now if we can get some of the fucking South Koreans just go against their companies,
Yeah.
then we know we're good.
I mean, I wonder, what the actors are, because the writer's strike, it struck me more as like, hey, this is more like middle class, striking.
Yeah,
like it was on the same level as like UPS, where these people are underpaid or they're overworked. But actors making fucking $100 million for 6 movies on Netflix, or like
who's making that?
Adam Sandler.
Mike
Myers
Adam
made a
Sandler,
similar deal.
No, Adam Sandler is ridiculous.
The thing is, like, the writers are all down here, but then the actors, they do have some that make a shit ton of money, but there's also so many people that make like absolute dog shit. Like no money. Like, I mean, one of the stories going around was that Aaron Paul has received no residuals for Breaking Bad from any streaming service, which is like,
Netflix, that show blew
still
up because of Netflix.
Like
it was not as popular before Netflix got it.
It's really on to these people as well. Like, the whole industry is so screwed, because if Aaron Paul's getting screwed by Netflix and not giving him Breaking Bad residuals, I don't know. Like, I know you need money, right? But like, signing to be the star of the new Black Mirror season, that's just giving your name again. Like, it's tough.
Because at the end of the day, here's how I look at it: to a degree, now we're getting into the point where the economy is kind of getting fucked. So we need to get more money in the hands of people. But what these streaming services did is they made, certain things accessible to people 24 hours a day, and made it so that people can engage with more media than ever. And it made it easier to become a household name, as well as to become like somebody who can really pull in a lot of gigs. And arguably, like Bryan Cranston, Aaron Paul is his name, right? Like, they arguably got way more roles, way more money for those roles, because of the level of fame that was given to them from these streaming services. Now, I'm not saying that that's a one-to-one or whatever, but I think it is something that does have to be thought about. But again, now it's like we're going into a place where the economy is kind of getting fucked, and we do need more money in the hands of writers. So we kind of it's just a necessary thing that needs to happen.
Yeah, it's just such a tough all around. Like, I saw on Twitter people were talking a lot about, oh my god, Aaron Paul got no residuals from Breaking Bad, but then at the same time, people are saying like, well, he's done this and that for them. Like, it just confuses common people if they're like, you come out and you say, I hate Netflix, they never paid me, but you also work with them. It's like, so like, it's the exact thing Jason was saying. Like, there's fucking actors like Adam Sandler who make $100 million for shit films.
Yeah,
absolutely. But then people on Twitter say, well, why are the actors striking? Adam Sandler makes $100 million, but it's like, it's for the lower class version.
Yeah,
but it's hard to like.
Yeah,
it's really hard to argue that, because when someone says Adam Sandler doesn't need more money, it's like, well,
yeah, well, and also like the main thing is that people just don't understand what a writer is for the most part. For some reason, they see these writers as these these lavish people who are going to these parties, they're doing these orgies, they're doing cocaine, they're fucking doing all this shit, and they're living these crazy lives with all this money. And what they don't realize is that, most of them are like usually living in like a 1-bedroom apartment. They're making maybe 40 to 50 grand a year, and that's if you're like, doing pretty decent. Or if you're like doing really well, you're maybe making 100 to 200 grand a year. But for the most part, you're not going to get these crazy numbers unless you're like really, really going for one of these huge films. And like, people, when you try to describe something to them, all they think of is Hollywood is one thing, and they don't understand the business structure of Hollywood or how it works. And I don't blame them. That's part of how Hollywood is you're supposed to have this like idea of like, oh, I don't know how it works, so therefore like I can immerse myself in it more. But to then speak out with ignorance, with such confidence is the stupid part.
People think they're so informed. Like the amount of people, like thank God the writers have gotten through now, because the amount of people I saw saying like, the example I'll use, because I don't want to shit on, but like people were saying shit like, why are the writers striking for more money when like the Flash movie was so badly written?
Yeah.
And they'll have like quotes from the Flash movie, and it's like, yeah, those are like horrible lines, but like
they're not making that much anyway.
Yeah, they're not. Those writers aren't making that much money.
McDonald's and get a bad burger and be like, why would these staff deserve to be paid? It's like,
yeah,
no,
they did a job.
I get movies, but they still did a job.
If Kristen Stewart is making $60 million and she can't act, I have an issue with that, because I can see an independent actor fucking giving their all to a role, or like Pedro Pascal, who has that mentality of like an independent actor. If anything, I want the actor strike to close the gap, because I feel like there's this fucking huge gap between like independent actors or actors who are like in supporting roles compared to these like elite actors who essentially are winning the Oscars.
Wait, hold on. Why? Can we let's just think about that. I have one question. Why?
Well, it's because the studios prop them up.
No, it's because the actors bring in money where the writers don't bring in.
No, I'm saying like you completely miss.
Well, you're saying that the actors get paid all this money.
I said I would like the gap between smaller actors and big time actors.
Or they're talking about writers.
No, I didn't. So that to close that gap, and basically Adam Sandler should not be making $100 million for 6 movies on Netflix, where an actor who does one of the best films, but because Netflix didn't prop it up, sits there and gets paid $6 million. Like there should be a close gap.
Names bring in money, so obviously more
the
people
studio
will bring in...
is propping those names up. It's not the.
So
it's not
Adam
like they're great marketers.
So wait, hold on. Are you telling me that Adam Sandler was unknown?
Adam Sandler became known because of SNL.
Okay, so he was known before Netflix.
But if he never was on SNL, Adam Sandler's not.
Okay, that's fine. But like, so he's clearly not just being propped up by Netflix. I mean, he's being paid because he brings in money. The main thing is, I do agree that what they should do is they should have more visibility of independent projects on Netflix. It's not necessarily that like if somebody brings in a bunch of viewers, then yeah, they do deserve to get paid that money. However, they should have an area where it's like, oh yeah, this is the independent thing. Like YouTube actually, I don't know if YouTube still does that, but they were doing that on the trending page where it'll be like, oh, this is the new creator of the month, and it was like somebody with 30K subscribers, and it would show like what type of channel they had and some of their content, and something like that would be really cool. But they don't do that. That's the big issue with Netflix. They don't push any of the smaller stuff.
Did OBS crap out?
Oh no, it's still got on my end.
It's just on Discord. It looks
Here, let me just go ahead and I'll turn it off and on. Is it fixed now?
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah.
Cool. Discord has been fucking with cameras for some reason the entire time. Like, yeah, it's very weird today.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's tough because like financially, the whole industry, like it makes sense. It's just like I also with Jason don't agree with like the way that everything works. I mean, whenever we get into like money and entertainment, my mind always goes to anime because fucking I know, right, like these animators get paid per frame, like cents on the dollar.
Oh yeah, that's
and it's such bullshit. But it's like, and I mean, voice actors get like nothing as well. It's like the people that own the rights. Like I think that's the most easy example for the general public because it's these businessmen that own the rights to the property that make the big money there, not the director or like a big name star, because they own the rights to this property. But the writer that created it, the manga, and then the animators and the voice actors get jack shit. I think that's a really good one to look at and say like that is not right. Like the top of every industry, like whether it's fucking Adam Sandler, whether it's fucking Netflix, whether it's, you know, the guy that owns the rights to Jujutsu Kaisen as opposed to the actual writer. I think even when you go to like Apple, like the CEO or like Warner Brothers Zaslav making 300 million, like the 1% makes way too fucking much right now. Like it's just across every industry.
That comes down to an issue with copyright law, and that is where I can be more in agreement with you. That right now what we have is we have a system where an IP is locked down and nobody can utilize it or be associated with it in any type of way. And I don't necessarily think Adam Sandler is bringing in like money from anything other than he brings in viewers. But when it comes into like Friends, right, that's just a copyright or an IP that's just being handed between different streaming services that brings, or Seinfeld, that bring in all these things. And the fact that
I find it hard to believe Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld did not get residuals from Netflix.
Here's the thing is, if you're smart, you own your IP. And so I would imagine that somebody like Larry David, who had a lot of power, probably owns some of his IP. However, most people don't own their IP because they don't have, especially in the cable days, because you don't have access to the like equipment to get on the TV. So you basically have to sell your show. They own it, and then if they cut your show's pretty much kind of fucked. And especially if you have like a non-compete, you can't even get picked up by another network. So like at the end of the day, I fully agree that like there should be a more kind of a socialized version where basically if you are part of some sort of IP and it's just getting passed around at this point, then you should probably get some at least small portion of a residual from that. Now I think it would probably be pretty minimal depending on what role you are though. Because obviously you can't pay every single person.
Well, yeah, if you're in like if you're a supporting role in 15 minutes of an hour TV show,
yeah,
and then main actors in 45 minutes, obviously that actor is gonna get paid more,
sure,
but it shouldn't be such a ridiculous amount more to the point where it's just like, well, it doesn't make any.
It just
sense.
depends on if they bring in because obviously if you're like. If you're Brad Pitt, obviously you know that your name's big, so you're gonna go in and you have negotiation power.
Well,
and so you're gonna negotiate
at these
things.
major studios already.
Even that, you have like a level of fame that you can have that pull automatically because you already have power going in. Your name has weight. That's as they say. So like the fact that is a thing is why they get paid more. But again, I do understand if you're saying something like Friends, like none of them on Friends is like that drastically bigger than the other.
No, they're all they all share the equal amount of the show.
Exactly. So like at the end of the day, the only time that somebody usually I'd imagine gets paid more anyway is when they're coming on to a project. When you're getting your first upfront money, usually if you have a big name, they'll pay you more. So that way, like you can put time aside instead of doing other projects, and that's what they're really paying you. Like if they pay you $200,000, they're basically saying, hey, you're not allowed to do any other work for the next year and a half or so for this amount of money. So that way we can do this project with you. And so depending on how much their name is worth, obviously that's going to pull whatever it is. And the problem is writers just don't get big because people don't fucking care about the background of movies, and that's the sad part.
Directors themselves.
Yeah, I agree. That's true. There are like I think Scorsese writes a lot of his shit.
He writes all this stuff.
Yeah, and so Cronenberg,
people do not give two shits for the most part about produced by or written by, but if it's a film by and it's the director writer, people are like,
or the main actor, then they'll be like, okay, yeah, that's it. But yeah, that's the sad thing is that nobody cares, and it's not, and that's not even a thing of like, oh, it's not propped up. It's like, no, they might even show it at the beginning of the film, but like they're not in the movie. You can't put a face to the name, like unless you're watching the red carpet, you're not even gonna really be seeing who these people are unless they're actors in the film. And so I think that's like but and then also it's like, do I want to mandate necessarily having like a part at the beginning of the movie where it shows a picture of all the you know what I mean? Like it gets to a point where it's like, how much of is it worth it to try to push up people in order to give their name more weight? I don't know the answer to that.
It's one of those things where like, I cannot say I know the answer either. I just do see there's an issue, and I was hoping
for sure
that when I read through the strike terms, I'd be like, oh, that's a good solution. But
never is really a good solution.
Yeah,
that's the sad part. There never really is.
But hopefully it continues. I mean, there's been a lot of fucking strikes, so hopefully every industry kind of continues. I really fucking pray visual effects artists need to unionize and strike, because they are just fucked across every industry, whether it's fucking
they just need to get some of those
I mean, at this point, if you're working at Disney and you're a visual effects artist, they'll just fire you. If you're even talking,
Yeah.
just fire.
Yeah, you're in the stall by yourself.
And then they have AI now. So now visual effects artists by far are the ones who are fucked the most because they have zero
you can
leverage.
generate a lot of shit with AI for sure.
Yeah.
Like I was able to do all sorts of stuff to like the short films and whatnot, add different like animation styles and all that. It's like pretty crazy what you can do.
Yeah, like that's why I was shocked when they weren't unionized already. I was like, what the fuck?
It's such an interesting thing that I was looking at the most recent Corridor Digital video, and I was having the thought, like, because of how it's gone from, like, in the Snow White days, animators would draw like every frame to now it's like you get a rig provided to you by Disney and then make a model, then someone makes a model and then you animate it, but like the workload has gotten so. Like a lot of it's done by the computer already, or you have like the spleen and you actually just say, go from here to here, and it does it. Yeah. Like so much of it is really assisted by the computer. I think that's a lot of why they're not really thinking about it, because they're not doing, I'm sure if they were doing frame by frame hand-drawn animation still, they'd be like, fuck that.
Or even like the original Toy Story, literally you had to keyframe every single step. And that's why it took so long for like those initial like CGI animated films, is because everything had to be manually keyframed, whereas now it's like half the work, if that, with a lot of the visual effects and animation.
Yeah, and well, this is the thing too, is that like people love to do these things, but the answer is like theoretically, if we were in a world where like everybody because theoretically if everything was automated, right, at that point we would just have to have some sort of universal basic income, and then it would be like, oh hey, utilize these tools and see who can become like the biggest named artist, and you can basically do whatever the fuck you want with your life at that point, and that would be pretty fucking awesome. But obviously automation isn't going to happen across the board all at once. That's one big thing. And then on top of that, like people want art jobs more than anything else. People like to be artistic. People love to work in this type of industry, and that's why people are fairly heartbroken over it. And I would say the only other one I can really think of is like truck drivers, for example. They're heartbroken over potential trucks going out because, you know, one of the main jobs for somebody who doesn't have a college degree is that can make like a six figures is a trucker. Get a CDL, yeah, make 120 grand a year just driving, and like, you know, that could be automated away, and that is scary for people, and that's understandable. But at the end of the day, like, do we legislate it away? I mean, is it better to have people drive, or
I think you should have a universal basic income.
Oh, I do. I agree. Yeah,
I think like you could really actually take a production, right? Say like Ridiculous Six or whatever has $125 million budget. Adam Sandler gets 100, and they split the 25 across production and the rest of the stuff. Okay. If you actually said you put like a universal income on it and said 125 million is split, you know, take away the production costs. Yeah, sure, Adam Sandler is a big name. He's not like 99% or whatever. You could probably give him like 60-70% of the budget
for sure.
But like, I think there should be some way that it's split between, you know, so many other people on the film. Like, if you have a big film, it shouldn't just be one guy. Like the new Mission Impossible, it shouldn't just be Tom Cruise making a shit ton more money. If you're like a makeup artist on a big blockbuster, you should make more than like
Tom Cruise put in his own money. So he bet on himself, which I respect. Yeah, that's like he doesn't. It's not like the studio paid for the whole thing. Where, I mean, there's not that many Mission Impossible movies if Tom Cruise is not putting his money in.
And well, also, you basically what you're kind of describing here is a co-op, and you would need to basically have. Here's the problem: is it's much harder for that to be financially successful, because what you would have to do is it would basically be either one co-op that operates in a very structured way every time, and then hopefully they're able to hit the like nail on the coffin every time, and you can all vote and agree on like proper payment for everybody. And then the other issue is that you might not be able to obviously like you know, fit everybody under a co-op and, you know, significantly give the budget out or dole it out in a way that's efficient. And you also, if you don't do it where you have like one company that's a co-op that just does the same thing every time, you'd have to set it up project to project. And then that's like, even bigger issue if that project fails, like that completely tanks whatever that company is for that thing. So having these bigger studios that come in with these production budgets that help kind of inject these markets, it is good. The problem is that we just are going towards an automation route, and it's just going to depend on how fast that goes. Like, there's not much that we can really say or do to stop it, and because I don't see us ever legislating it away.
Well, yeah, no, that's the same thing as like people sitting there wanting to get rid of, like, we need to go back to physical discs. We cannot go to all digital.
I don't. Yeah,
it's like it's gonna. You can't stop it.
Yeah, it's gonna be digital.
Once that box was, once the lid was pushed off the box, it was completely unleashed on the world at that point.
We didn't do a podcast that week, but like the FTC stuff leaked, and it came out that the next Xbox is going to be all digital, and everyone's like, "I can't believe it, no discs!" And it's like,
it's the current.
Well, yeah, like that's because the general public is buying all digital. Like most people don't buy disc games, so they're making a product based on the supply.
Game Pass is, I mean, it's by far way better than PlayStation Plus.
Yeah,
and,
fuck PlayStation.
It doesn't cost $18 a month. But that makes sense that they're moving towards. I mean, think of computers. Like, nobody's fucking putting CD-ROMs or DVD-ROMs in their computers to install a game. Like, that's just not happening. Everything. Yeah, like, if anything, blame Steam for all the digital stuff, because they're the ones that started it.
How dare you? Don't you ever speak on game like that?
Amount of like spite I want to throw out that I didn't even realize was a thing that still needed to be spited. But my friend has PlayStation Plus, and there's so many games coming out in that are multiplayer. Fucking crossplay is not a thing.
Oh,
like, did you guys know Naraka is not like proper crossplay?
Yeah.
Like,
because I was able to play.
Yeah, that's right. But before PlayStation does not like to play with
Nintendo.
People.
We had.
But there's ones
Nintendo
like
and Microsoft had forced Rocket League to be cross-platform with Sony.
Yeah.
We played Blood Hunt. Well, we talked about Blood Hunt. Blood Hunt is cross-play compatible. Like, you can play PS5 to PC to Xbox, whatever.
Yeah.
But you cannot party up with other platforms.
Weird.
So you can't it's fucking.
That's so stupid.
I don't understand it.
But that's Sony. It's
so
Sony
dumb.
wanting to sit there and corner a market that no longer can be cornered. And that's why they're fucking. And then they recently, I don't know if it was true, but Munahara, I watched basically on YouTube, and there was potentially a bit major hack at Sony. That everybody's info got leaked and stuff. And Sony's just like the worst when it comes to anything security and online.
True.
Sony is fucking going through it this week.
They're going to be bought by a bigger company at some point. It's going to happen. I don't think it'll be Microsoft, because I don't think Japan will allow that. But I do think that somebody is going to buy PlayStation.
That's actually
that's a good
It's such an interesting point. I actually don't know any big Japanese companies, because they have that like system in place where companies own percentages of other companies. So it's like really insular for Japanese companies. So I don't know who would buy it out. I saw fucking Microsoft wanted to buy Nintendo, so maybe we'll see some
who knows? That'd be sick.
I don't think that is Nintendo even up for sale.
No.
I mean, they just came out with the Universal Studios Nintendo World and all that stuff. They're just as big as Disney at this.
One of the big investors that's been buying up Nintendo stock independently
is like an Xbox or Microsoft board member or something like that.
Yeah, so it feels like, well, we could buy stock and combine it with his stock and have like a majority.
That's probably what they're trying to do, a hostile takeover. Sounds about right. That sounds like Microsoft.
Yeah, just like Steve Jobs went through back in the day.
Well, when he drank all that carrot juice and died with the orange skin.
No, when he was forced out of his own company.
And
then they begged him to come back because they lost so much money because they were so stupid when it came to innovating. Nintendo
does have a lot of money to sit on, and that's the problem, because they make their shit really cheaply, and that's their whole method is they like use old. There's like they have like some motto in there that says like they use old software to make new ideas or something like that.
Well, how many like innovations of the Nintendo 3DS were there? I mean, like it's the same fucking console.
I mean, the fucking Nintendo Switch 2 leaked that it's going to be like a Switch but with a 1080p screen coming out next year Christmas, and like 1080p? Come on.
Yeah, like we're on 8K.
Oh,
We're heading on 8K now. Like, and Nintendo's like 1080p. Anybody? But again, if it's a small screen, though, I guess it doesn't make a difference.
True.
Yeah.
All right. Well, does anybody? We're about 2.5 in. Does anybody have any last things to touch on before
Broadway's safe. I think that's the one thing I would say. Like, when it comes to entertainment, Broadway's the safest bet.
All right. Base. I enjoy it. That's a great place to leave off, Jason. I think that was beautifully said, and I couldn't have said it better myself. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us during this Tripodcast. You can follow Peter down in the description. You can follow us down in the description. We have all sorts of other stuff that you can follow too. Also, for whatever reason, there's a lot of shit in the description. That's what I'm trying to say. And you can also recommend any topics for us to discuss in the comments below. All right. I'll see you guys in the next one.
Today's news. 3 little pigs have just built a house of straw.
You ain't blowing down, no you ain't blowing. Say you ain't blowing down shit. Said I up and I buff just to blow the walls down. Expose another wall just to keep me on the ground. I ain't trying to take a live, I'm just trying to stay around. But these demons in my head, yeah, they never backing down. Said I up and I buff just to blow the walls down. Expose another wall just to keep me on the